And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what?
China.
All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
That's why you called Israel. Is it real? No, it's not. How did we leave there black and come back white? How did we leave there black and come back white? How did we leave there black and come back white? How did we leave there black and come back white? Can somebody answer that for me? Can somebody answer that for me? Can somebody answer that for me? Can somebody answer that for me?
They say, go see the African History Museum. Why do they start when the boats came? Why don't they start with the drums?
When we was kings.
No, they don't want it, but we are kings. But the 400 years doesn't have to deal with slavery. It has to deal with the Bible. It has to deal with us being disobedient to God. Us as 12 tribes of Judah, as a member of the Hebrew people, we are still inside of our genocide. 50% of all black deaths a year is abortion.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, you know, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
The white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. It's a loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries, and
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and excuse me. Want to say peace and blessings, family. Want to say Shabbat Shalom. I know it's me doing it again, last minute, live. I got to get back to my routine of scheduling the lives and all that. So for some of the guys or some of the people that's going to catch this presentation, they'll primarily have to catch it in the playback. So many of you guys probably saw the live I did a week ago about Shyne, but I wanted to do it again, wanted to do the teaching again because I didn't have all my slides in. I didn't have all my my clips in that I wanted to share. So I wanted to take the time out tonight, do a late night playbook. And for those that are that will tune in, we welcome you. Those that will come in later, welcome you aboard. I want to say Shabbat Shalom, and hope and pray that you guys have a blessed Shabbat. But we got a lot to cover tonight, right? We have a lot to cover tonight. Really want to show some clips to really share the big problem that we have when it comes to our community. I did a video called titled Anything But the Negro. I encourage you guys to go back through my old videos and take a look at that video when I deal with the skin complexion. See, family, we as a people, we are really sick, right? And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm not saying that to insult our people, but I am, I can see why many are frustrated with our community. I can see why so many people are walking away from our community altogether, as far as from Christianity. I can see, why, many don't want to deal with Christianity at all. Our loved ones that are still there, starting with the leaders, because there's a lot of brothers and sisters that say that they are Christians, but they hate on their own people more than some of these racists that are out there. There's so much self-hatred that Christianity has promoted directed towards our people, that we have many of these so-called Christians, so-called teachers, so-called educators are nothing more than a C-spot run for these racists. Now, I'm going to show you some things that you will never see them address over in these so-called Christian circles, right? I'm going to show you the very delusion that Christianity is promoting, the Israel that they support, right? The Israel that they support and the Israel that they put down, right? We are the Israel that they put down. We are the Israel that they are threatened by, right? We are the Israel that they are truly threatened by, right? But they support the Israeli. There's a difference between the two, and we got a lot to cover, and we're going to deal with that as well. Because it boggles me when I see these Christians making comments, making posts, doing messages when it comes to our community that have awakened to our identity, that always want to throw this nonsense out there. Well, you can't have culture over Christ. But then they teach you that Christianity is a lifestyle. Wait a minute. Christianity is a lifestyle, but we're not supposed to have culture over Christ. You can't teach that Christianity is a lifestyle, but then when you see a brother or sister who who is awakening or who have awakened to who they are, their identity, then suddenly, oh, you can't have culture. When you start dealing with culture, all of a sudden you get the word cult start being tossed around. So I can tell you straight up, these guys have no clue what the word cult means. Because if you do the actual, based upon how they abuse the term cult, Christianity, fact, the largest cult in the world. And I'll put those numbers up against anyone who want to come test, who want to come talk and have a discussion about the cult. I could pick Christianity apart, but out of respect for my grandmother, out of respect for many of my loved ones, right? Out of respect because I was raised up in Christianity, right? I still try to show some respect for my elders that have transitioned from this place. Even though some of my relatives completely walked away from Christianity, left that stuff go. Thank the Most High for my uncle, Bishop Jerry Carr, the late Bishop Jerry Carr, who completely walked away from it, being a bishop in Church of God in Christ, being rooted in Church of God in Christ. But some of these so-called pastors, they are worse than dealing with the racists. They are worse than dealing with the racists. It baffles me why we still support these people. While we're still giving our hard-earned money to these people. But I'm going to show you some clips that they will never talk about. But yet we're the liars. We're the ones that have to make up stuff in their eyes. We're the ones that are chasing culture. Well, if you really understood what culture is from a biblical perspective, right? Culture means to promote growth. The word till, right, comes from the Hebrew word ibad, right? Till, right? This is where you get the word cultivate. And from cultivate, you get the word culture. So we got a lot of brothers and sisters that call themselves teaching this word that are completely sick. Yes, I said it. They are sick. I almost said a few things that I disagree with. I don't believe in using the coon word and all those different things, but I'm gonna tell you, some of these guys have got me so close to saying it. But you guys have never heard me call our own brother or sister a coon, and I will not break that streak. I've never used it. It's a very offensive word. But some of these so-called preachers, these so-called pastors, who are you? But let me show you the delusion. Let's see if you got all the talk, all the smoke for the Hebrew Israelites, right? But let's see if you want to talk about this stuff right here that I'm going to share with you tonight, that I always bring receipts. I got away from it. I kind of gotten away from dealing with the Jewish community, dealing with the facts, dealing with all the identity and all that stuff. I just really been doing a lot of teaching, trying to get some foundational teaching to our brothers and sisters, to you guys, because there's a lot of foundational teaching that is needed among our community like never before, because so many of our brothers and sisters are getting tossed to and from foundational teaching that you're not going to get in Christianity. Yeah, I could pick apart the Trinity. I can pick apart the Trinity. I could pick apart all those things. I'm tired of dealing with many of these pastors or these so-called frontline people, or however you want to call them, that call themselves defending Christianity, that when they deal with our people, right, we got to sit up here trying to quote or recite the Nicene Creed. No, you know what? Forget all of that. No, I don't rock with the Trinity. No, I don't rock with the Trinity, but I believe in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. I could prove factual that Trinity is a concept. Trinity is not something that is that Christianity has a monopoly on. Idolizing the cross. You guys idolize, got all kinds of idols inside your place of worship, and you want to talk about the Hebrew Israelites? Even wearing a cross is an idol. Show me a disciple that wore a cross. Show me Apostle Paul. Show me one bit of writing that Apostle Paul wore a cross. Come on, let's get it in. Let's show me. Show me. I could pick apart your speaking in tongues, the poor doctrines that have been taught about it. I could pick apart the poor understanding of the Holy Spirit. We could talk about the law, statutes, and commandments, and I'll prove that you guys have no clue of what you're talking about when it comes to that. I could prove that Christianity did not want to have nothing to do with the true Hebrew Israelites. The believers, the followers of the way, made every attempt to separate itself from it. No, the first, if we want to be real about it, I can break down that word Christian and show that Apostle Paul never called himself a Christian, right? All you Paulines out there, show me where Apostle Paul called himself a Christian. Challenge, I accept my challenge. Show me one line of text that Apostle Paul called himself a Christian. And I could pick apart the one little quote that these guys will go to as a Christian. I could pick apart your poor, warped understanding of that word Christian. I can pick it apart. Paul made it clear that he's a follower of the way. Paul never called himself a Christian. Who won't come test? Who won't come test? These, it baffles me. Who won't come test? I've been very nice to a lot of these people out here. A lot of these people. You got people calling themselves bashing Hebrew Israelites, and they didn't even know that the Passover was connected to the Last Supper. Didn't know that Apostle Paul taught the honoring of the Passover to the Corinthians. Come on, family. Who want to come test? Who want to come test? I'll go back to what I was doing when I was on Facebook, putting $5,000 on the table for anyone within the Christian church. Start challenging you guys that way. I'll completely obliterate your promoting of the Christmas tree. I'll completely obliterate your so-called poor understanding of Paul letters and prove that Paul taught to honor the commandments. Who won't come test? Anyway, family, I know I'm a little amped up tonight. It's a lot of foolishness that's going on among the community. Among the community. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what these so-called Christian pastors, they would rather promote delusions than to promote their own people who have awakened to their identity. Don't come with me with that crazy stuff about culture over Christ. You don't even understand the law, statutes, and commandments was a culture from the very beginning. The covenant is what? Part of the culture. You don't even understand the responsibility of the priesthood. You don't even understand the responsibility of Adam. Adam was, in the very beginning, he was tasked to what? Establish or continue to establish the culture of holiness, the culture of righteousness that the Most High gave to him from the very beginning. Ibad, to what? Till, to dress, right? And keep the garden. Dress, abide, keep, shamar, the garden. All this foolishness that's going on. We got all this craziness that's going on. Let me show you what these pastors, let me show you what Christianity, let me show you what they support, the Israel that they support. Let me show you the Israel that they support. And we're going to still address the things with Shyne as well. So let me go ahead and enlarge in the screen here. I'm going to play a couple of videos here real quick. And let me show you what the Christianity, let me show you the Israel that the Christians celebrate. right? This is what these evangelicals, this is what these Christian apologists, this is the Israel that they honor. This is what the Pat Hagee and, call Kenneth Copeland. This is the Israel that they support. Let me give you one clip right now.
נחשף ביערות בורקינה פאסו שקניבלים נטו נטו. שלום למנהיג השבט קזבובו.
שלום עליכם. אברהם יצחק יעקב, יודע עברית, שולחן, חשבונית, קובי פרץ, מותחלזי, מותאו.
מר קזבובו, כולנו כאן בישראל מופתעים ונרגשים נוכח האפשרות שתעלו ארצה.
קזבובו שמח, 2000 שנות גלות נגמר, רואים אור בקצה של מנהרה.
אתם בטוחים שאתם יהודים?
התחלנו על חנן. אם הוא שחור הוא לא יהודי?
לא בגלל שהוא שחור, הוא...
מה הוא מה?
קניבל.
ומי אתה שתגיד לו מה לאכול, אם הוא קניבל הוא לא יהודי?
אולי תבוא, תעשה אצלנו שבת?
זה לא שיש לי משהו אישי נגדכם, אבל הפלשמורה למשל תקועים.
Yeah, let's see if they talk about that Israel. Let's see if they put these videos up on their channels and talk about that Israel wearing blackface, right? The Jewish community as we know them wearing blackface. Let's see if they put that up on their channels. Let's see if they talk about this Israel. Let me give you another Israel. Let's see if they talk about this Israel.
Wow. So the point I'm making is being a Jew, being an Israelite is not a racial thing. You have...
Oh, wrong one. Let me play this one. This is the one I was trying to play.
להתחיל לאסוף את המסתננים, לא צריך לחכות לבג"ץ, לא צריך שום דבר.
אני רואה חרא מחוץ לבית שלי, יריקות, פסיכופטים, אנשים שרק מחפשים איך לרצוח אותי בעיניים שלהם, אבל אף אחד לא מאמין לנו. אנחנו גזענים כדי לרצות לשמור על החיים שלנו ועל השפיות שלנו. אז אני גאה בלהיות גזענית, אני גאה בלהיות גזענית. אם אני גזענית בשביל לשמור על החיים שלי, אז אני גאה.
את עם קושי לנסוע! את תנסוע עם קושי! לכי את והוא! תלכי מפה! תלכי! את תנסוע עם קושי! לכי! לא מתביישת!
Come on, family. Will they talk about that Israel? Are they going to talk about that Israel? Are they going to talk about y'all? You guys saw in the video, they using the word Kushi. Remember, I told you guys I was going to show some videos on it because when we dealt with Shyne a week ago, I didn't have these clips available. So I decided to do it over again. Let's see if they're going to talk about that Israel, right? That used the word Kushi interchangeable with the N-word, right? Y'all saw in the video, they're using Kushi interchangeably with the N-word, the nigger. Let's see if they talk about that. At least in this truth, in this awakening, at least the brothers and sisters on this side of the Jordan, at least we're talking about the real issues. See, they support that Israel, the Israel that are calling melanated people, that are calling true Israelites the N-word, the nigger, calling them Kushi, making the word Kushi, Kush, into a slang over there. Matter of fact, the word Zion, I can prove it to you. The word Zion is a slang over there. That means go F yourself. That's the F-bomb over there. But they don't want to talk about that, right? They want to go through all these same old regurgitated talking points that we're the threats. We're the threats. Come with me with that Nicene Creed, and I'll toss that thing right back up in your face. I don't have to recite no Nicene Creed to you. Who are you? Who are you? You can't even explain the Nicene Creed to your own self. This is the Israel that they support, family. Let me show that clip again, because I want to make sure that we play it so that way they can see. Let's see if you see on these different channels that are coming at and saying that our people are the biggest threats. Let me play this again. Let's see if they're going to play this on their channel. Let's see if they talk about this. They good with talking about the KKK. They're good with talking about Donald Trump. They good with talking about what the white man has done. They could talk about that a little bit. But will they talk about what I just shared? The Israel that they support. Let me show you again the Israel that they support.
להתחיל לאסוף את המסתננים, לא צריך לחכות לבג"ץ, לא צריך שום דבר.
אני רואה חרא מחוץ לבית שלי, יריקות, פסיכופטים, אנשים שרק מחפשים איך לרצוח אותי בעיניים שלהם, אבל אף אחד לא מאמין לנו. אנחנו גזענים כדי לרצות לשמור על החיים שלנו ועל השפיעות שלנו. אז אני גאה בלהיות גזענית. אם אני גזענית בשביל לשמור על החיים שלי, אז אני גאה.
אל תסוע עם קושי! אל עם קושי לנסוע! אל תסוע עם קושי! לכי את והוא! תלכי מפה! תלכי! אל תסוע עם קושי! לכי! לא מתביישת!
Immigrants often have to meet acceptance criteria, but in Israel, it's been revealed some women have been forcibly medicated so that they don't become pregnant. What's more, many of the Ethiopian migrants who are of Jewish descent were being given the contraceptive without their knowledge, despite the drug's hazardous side effects. RT's Paula Sleer has the story.
When I first arrived at the Gwanda transit camp, I got pregnant and I gave birth. They told me, if you don't take the shot, we won't give you a ticket. So I took the shot, but I didn't know that it would prevent pregnancies. I didn't know.
But more and more Israeli women were becoming suspicious, like Racheli Mangoli, who runs a youth center in an Ethiopian neighborhood. In 4 years, only one child was born here. An alarming statistic in a community where family wealth is counted by the number of children, and where national figures show that the birth rate among Ethiopian women in Israel has dropped by 50%.
I believe a few of the organizations who were responsible for bringing Ethiopian immigrants to Israel decided to administer a contraceptive to them. We don't know who gave the instruction, but we do know from what we were told that this treatment began in Ethiopia.
And it continued in Israel, where every 3 months immigrant Ethiopian women received a shot of the controversial Depo-Provera contraceptive drug.
We said we wouldn't take the shot. They said, then you can't immigrate. You won't get assistance or medical care. If so, we wouldn't be able to leave. We were scared. We didn't know how things worked in a different country.
Although legal, the American Food and Drug Administration has warned that the side effects of this drug could be irreversible.
You must understand this was not normal contraception. We are talking about contraception that has significant medical and mental effects, irregular cycles, vaginal bleeding, osteoporosis, alongside mental side effects like depression, mood swings, rage, and more. So this is contraception which is not recommended for most women. In fact, most women in Israel do not use it.
Two-thirds of Ethiopian women have been taking it without being informed that they don't have to. And now, for the first time, an Israeli official has admitted authorities have been administering it to them. In January this year, the Director General of the Health Ministry ordered all gynecologists working for or with the health maintenance organizations not to renew any Depo-Provera prescriptions for women originating from Ethiopia, or for any other women for whom there is a concern that they do not fully understand the implications of the treatment. Critics say it stinks of racism.
I think the policy in Israel is that they don't want
poor or black children. You can see a lot of Western organizations that go into Ethiopia or in other countries like that, and without any shame, given that Depot Rivera, they are very happy with that, very proud of that.
But the legal backlash is beginning. And while nervous about coming forward, human rights groups are encouraging Ethiopian women to sue for damages.
Minutes after the rally, 1,000 Israelis rioted, attacking African homes and businesses and assaulting any African they found in the street. Here is footage shot by one of the participants in the riot, a supporter of Michael Ben-Ari. Days later, Yulia Shmuelov-Belkovich, at the time a legislator from the centrist opposition party Kadima, called for Israelis who advocate for the Africans to be locked in prison camps alongside the asylum seekers.
אני מסכם בדיוק. דרך אגב, מעבירה אותם גם לאותו מקום שאנחנו בונים עכשיו את המחנות שיעבדו שם.
According to the Israeli Coalition Against Racism, incidents of racist incitement by Israeli public figures doubled in 2012. In many cases, the targets of their hateful invective were not Palestinians, but African migrants.
So family, let's see if they talk about those things. See, that's the Israel that the evangelicals support. That's the Israel that the Christian church support. That's the Israeli, rather. That's what I'm going to use the term Israeli, not Israel, because we're Israel. We're the true Israelites. But that's the Israeli that these different Christian organizations, especially a lot of these black churches, are sending monies to help, to assist, but destroy or attack and come at us. That's the Israeli that they support, right? That's the stuff that they support. That's the stuff that they won't talk about, right? That's what they won't talk about. They won't talk about that same drug, right? That same drug that Israeli is using on our brothers and sisters over in Israel that's messing with their reproductive system. It's the same drug that Hitler used. That's a fact. But they don't want to talk about that because we're the bigger threat. We're the bigger threat. They keep tossing around this word cult, but guess what? The largest cult is Christianity. It's Christianity itself. Catholicism, that's the biggest cult in the world. If you want to go ahead and deal with it the way that how they're teaching Christianity or how they defining the word cult. Most of the large these occultic associations or groups, they are Christian organizations. The KKK is a Christian organization, but they don't want to talk about that. They want to pump each other up and talk about their Israel, the Israel that they want. That's the Israel that they want. That's the Israeli that they support. The Israeli that wear blackface. Let me share one more time, and then I'm going to share a couple of things. And let's see if they talk about this. Let's see if they talk about this, because they did a lot of talking about me for quite some time, right? And I bit my tongue a lot, right? Did a lot of slandering, right? But let's see if they talk about this right here. I'm not talking about the pews. I'm not talking about none of those different things. Let's talk about Israel versus Israeli. Let's see if they talk about this information that I'm sharing with you right now. The Israeli that they support, the agenda that they support, their churches is supporting, right? That flag of Israel that they have inside their sanctuary with the hexagram on there, the Star of David that's not even biblical, that star, that 5-pointed star. Or should I say 6-pointed star? Where did that come from? That star that you have inside your sanctuary, at your altar, right? The very thing that the Apostle Paul talks about, right? Having these images, right? This is what he warned about 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, going to have these images of these groups of people that's going to elevate themselves as if they are the Most High themselves, right? That Ezekiel chapter 8 talks about the images of all these different deities and these different belief systems in the temple, in the house of the Most High. Don't want to talk about that. Yeah, don't want to talk about that. They're not going to talk about this. Let me play it one more time.
נחשף ביערות בורקינה פאסו שקניבלים נטו נטו. שלום למנהיג השבט קזבובו.
שלום עליכם. אברהם יצחק יעקב. יודע עברית, שולחן, חשבונית, קובי פרץ, מוטלזי, מוטאו.
מר קזבובו, כולנו כאן בישראל מופתעים ונרגשים נוכח האפשרות שתעלו ארצה.
קזבובו שמח. 2000 שנות גלות נגמר. רואים אור בקצה של מנהרה.
אתם בטוחים שאתם יהודים?
התחלנו אלחנן. אם הוא שחור הוא לא יהודי?
לא בגלל שהוא שחור, הוא...
מה הוא מה?
קניבל.
ומי אתה שתגיד לו מה לאכול, אם הוא קניבל הוא לא יהודי?
אולי תבוא, תעשה אצלנו שבת?
זה לא שיש לי משהו אישי נגדכם, אבל הפלשמורה למשל תקועים...
Yeah, we're going to talk about it, family. We're going to talk about it. That's that Magan Dawid, right? That's what they refer to it. Star David, Magan Dawid, Magan, star Dawid. David, I'm just saying it in the Israeli pronunciation. As to Magan Dawad, right? But Magan Dawid, that's the star of David, right? Supposedly. Oh, yeah, we got a lot to talk about tonight, right? That's just the introduction, right? And we're going to still deal with Shyne because dealing with Shyne and addressing some of the things he stated is still going to fall in alignment with what we're going to deal with tonight. So we're going to deal with it, family. Yeah, the very people that got the Star of David, Magen Dawid, right in there at their sanctuary, inside their sanctuary, their altars. But they call themselves keeping it real. Oh, man. That great delusion. I want to say peace and blessings to my buddy Jay Highstyle. I see my sister Shawnee up here. Moderators, you guys know what to do. If people come up here acting crazy, you guys know what to do. Don't even hesitate. Anyone that may come up here trying to troll, give them the boot. Give them the boot. We woke now. Right over here, we woke now. We don't play it. You can disagree, but you're not going to be disrespectful up over here. All right. So let's go ahead and delve into it a little bit. Let me show you a couple of clips of Shyne, and then we're going to just walk through some things. Some of this stuff is just a refresher to some of you, but it's good to touch on it. All right. So let's deal with Shyne real quick. Let me show a couple of his comments, and then we'll continue on. Here we go.
Wow. So the point I'm making is being a Jew, being an Israelite is not a racial thing. Right. You have Jews from Morocco, you have Jews, Morocco, you have Jews from Iran, you have Jews from Yemen, you have Jews from Iran, you have Jews from Syria, you have Jews from Lebanon.
From the places
you have Jews from Russia.
But you're naming mostly places besides Russia.
You have Jews.
Known for
you have Jews from Czechoslovakia.
All over
you have Jews
right.
from all over Europe.
Wow.
But those Jews that are in Europe came from Africa, came from Israel. They were persecuted in Jerusalem and in Israel, and they fled to Europe.
Right.
So the point I'm making is I don't like to racialize being a Jew.
Right.
Being a Jew is aracial. Being a Jew is a belief.
So many people go to jail and they come back, they come back blood, or they come back Crip, or they come back Muslim, or they come back Christian.
Yeah.
No one comes back Jewish. No one comes back Jewish. No one comes back Jewish. No one comes back Jewish.
The Israelites, the proper name for Jews are Israelites.
And Israelites, for people who don't know,
I'm not talking about those guys on 42nd Street.
That's what I was about to say.
No. Listen,
that's not the Israelites.
Listen, if you're
guys on 42nd Street with black,
if you're a Christian or a Muslim, the Quran or the King James version
of the Bible,
and you read the Old Testament, they both have the Old Testament, and you read, it will tell you about the Israelites,
right?
And the 5 books of Moses is in both those scriptures. The 5 books of Moses documents the happenings of the Israelites.
Mm-hmm. It's not in the Torah, though, as well?
That's the Torah. The Torah is in the Quran.
It's in, okay. So that's the
and
first.
in the Christian books.
Got it.
So the point I'm trying to make is nowhere in the Torah, the Quran, or the Christian books do they mention the word Jew. It's Israelite. Jew is just a misnomer. It's just a,
right.
Just a pseudo name, just a and if you look at the journey of the Israelites, they were Africans. Egypt is in Africa.
Right. North Africa, right.
It's Africa.
Right.
Right? So the people in Africa got broad noses, big lips, and, much darker than I am. You had pharaohs that were the color of your shirt. Israel is right there attached to Sinai, which is in Africa. They're like connected. They call it the Middle East. I'm not going to get into that politics, but if you look at the map.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's not far-fetched. It's
not even far-fetched. It's literally attached.
Right.
Wow. And the entire thing was going from Egypt to Israel.
Well, what I meant far-fetched is that it's the same people.
It's still a part of Africa.
Right.
So Africa got Ethiopians. Africa got, the Igbos in Nigeria. Shout out to my little brother, Davido. So it's not, to me, people associate being Jewish with being European.
Right.
Which is, just a myth. It's not real. If you look at Moses was married to an Ethiopian.
Wow.
It says this.
Right, and it's post-World War II Israel.
It says this in the Bible. But I'm not talking about Israel. I'm just talking about, so being a Jew is not synonymous with being an Israeli.
All right, family, let's go ahead and get into it. We got a lot to cover. We're going to give proper clarity to the term Kushi, right? Because I know, unfortunately, many of our brothers and sisters, matter of fact, some of our brothers and sisters have a problem with that word Kush, right? Or Kushi or Kawash, however you want to pronounce it, right? And we have to put it in its proper perspective. When we look at the word black, and you guys know I don't like you tossing around the word black based upon the institution of race, and we'll break that down. But when you look at the word Kushi, right, it's not a derogative term. There were Israelites, Kushi Israelites, right? In other words, dark Israelites. Kushi was also used interchangeable with how we would use today black. And unfortunate, because of how we've been really suppressed as a people, many that are awakening are really displaying a hatred for Africa or other African countries. We're not supposed to hate anyone. The Most High made it clear in Deuteronomy not to hate against the Egyptians. We're not supposed to hate against anyone. Guess what? We're Israelites, but guess what? I'm not going to put down someone that's a descendant of Ham. I'm not. They have their culture. It's just not our culture. So when you see the word Kushi or Kush, it's not saying that you are blood descendants of or descendants of the nation of Ethiopia. We know that there's Israelites in Ethiopia. And if we look at the fullness of this continent, at one time, the entire continent of Africa was called Ethiopia or Kush or Kushi or Kawash. I'm not getting into all this schematics. So family, let's make sure that we don't allow some of that stuff to seep in over here. All right. And I'm going to say this to whoever this Hananiah, whoever his name is. I want to make it clear here. We understand over here that a person's skin complexion doesn't make them righteous. So take the same arguments, take that same discussion and take it to those other platforms. We understand over here, but we're not going to always, every time we start talking about skin complexion, we always have to have one in the bunch that want to throw a but in there. Oh, well, you know, but being dark doesn't make you righteous, but we know that you Israel, but that means that you still need salvation. So what that your DNA is this, but, or your DNA says this, but, or the Bible says this, but we still need Jesus. No, we're not getting into all of that. We understand that over here. So we're not going to, I'm not allowing any buts tonight. Right? So in Israel Rise that I see here, we're going to give proper clarity because apparently you're not understanding, brother. And I'm going to walk you through. Right? We know that you have the Ethiopians, right? But you also have Israelites that was called Kushi, not because of them being descendants of Ethiopians, but because they are what? The word Kush was also used for dark. And I'm going to show you here. I'm going to give you definition. I'm going to give you clarity. And this, so that way we can stop with this thinking that every time you see the word Kush or Ethiopian in the Bible, it's referring to Hamitic people. Right? Perfect example. You know, I'm from Newark, New Jersey, born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. I know that I'm an Israelite, even though I'm from Newark. Right? I know that I'm an Israelite. All right. So I just want to give proper clarity tonight. All right. We're going to knock down a lot of these strongholds. We're going to have the like my grandmother would say, we're going to have the adult conversation that many don't want to have. But tonight, we're not dealing with no buts. Anyone that want to come with the buts, take it elsewhere. Take it elsewhere. Take it to those other platforms. Tonight, we're not dealing with no buts. We're dealing with facts. We don't need a but at the end of every time we speak the truth. So let's go ahead and get it in, family. Let's get it in. Let's start off with answering these questions. These are some of the questions we're going to answer. Is the proper name for Jews Israelites? Is being a Jew or Jewish a belief? What is Zionism? We're going to deal with some of these things tonight. This is going to be a refresher to many of you guys, but for some of you, to others, this is going to be kind of like an introduction into the truth, right? Some key words that you need to understand, starting with Zionism. Let's start with breaking down the word Zionism. Right? This is coming from the etymology dictionary online. It says Zionism. The noun portion of this definition, it says movement for forming a Jewish national state in Palestine. Right? First recorded in 1886. All right. So the word Zionism comes from the word Zion. And when we go to the etymology dictionary definition of this word, we see it here. It says Zion, Greek Sion, Sion or Sion, Hebrew Sion, right? Name of a Canaanite hill fortress in Jerusalem, captured by David and called in the Bible City of David. It became the center of Jewish life and worship. And we got some key words we got to really address, like the word Jew, the word Jewish, right? Because I'm going to make it clear. Anyone can be a Jew, but not everyone can be a blood descendant of Israel. Let me say that again. Everyone can be a Jew. Shyne was right. If you want to be a Jew, guess what? You can become a Jew by belief. And we're going to get to the law of return, because in the law of return, it defines a Jew as someone being born to a Jewish mother or practicing Judaism, denouncing your belief system and practicing Judaism. So anyone can be a Jew, but not everyone can be a blood descendant of Israel. Anyone can be, pretty much for the most part, become an Israeli, but not everyone can be a blood descendant of Israel, right? You can be born in Israel and be an Israeli, but not be a blood descendant of Israel, right? So again, Zion, name of a Canaanite fortress in Jerusalem, captured by David and called the Bible the city of David. So Zionism is the movement for forming a Jewish national state in Palestine. So again, what is Zionism? Let's go to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the definition of Zionism. Let's see what it says. It says, Zionism, Jewish nationalist movement that has had as its goal the creation and support of a Jewish national state in Palestine, the ancient homeland of the Jews. Guess what? We're going to knock down even this poor definition, right? The ancient homeland of the Jews. That's not Israel. And I'm going to prove it here with their own information. But it goes on to say, though Zionism originated in Eastern and Central Europe in the latter part of the 19th century, it is in many ways a continuation of the ancient attachment of the Jews. And we're going to knock this down again. And of the Jewish religion to the historical region of Palestine, where one of the hills of ancient Jerusalem was called Zion. We're going to knock this down. I'm going to get to a definition here real quick. So the offshoot of Judaism. So Zionism, along with Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, are from the same bitter waters of the Babylonians. So let's deal with the key doctrine of Zionism, right? Because when you start really understanding like the Balfour Agreement, right? It's so much into understanding the Balfour Agreement. And we're not going to deal with it too much tonight. We'll do a special teaching on just that agreement. But I want to just share a key piece of information when we start dealing with Zionism, right? A key doctrine of Zionism, right? But we're going to deal with the Balfour Agreement, right? Not tonight, but we'll deal with that, because that in itself is a separate teaching, right? And then you'll understand when you start dealing with Germany, you'll understand that it was a civil war, right? Or should we say, we could say a civil war. We could say a revolutionary war. In turn, we could say it's more of a revolutionary war, but either way. But we know that when you start looking, for example, at the coin in Germany, you'll see the swastika on one side and you see the Star of David on the other side. That in itself is a whole discussion, that in itself. And we're going to deal with that not tonight. So key doctrine of Zionism, starting with the 6 million number. 6 million is a Kabbalistic number. Let me say that again. You guys, how many of you guys have heard the 6 million number? How many of you guys have heard the 6 million number? How many of you guys have heard this here? All right. If you heard of the 6 million number, just type your comment, whatever thought comes to your mind about the 6 million, right? Because we want to deal with a little charms, right? Because many of our brothers and sisters are under a charm, right? And we're going to start with 6 million, the 6 million number, right? Let's break down the 6 million number. Let's see here. All right. All right. See everyone responding. Appreciate it. Some said never heard of it. All right. Tawame Gaddy, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. We'll give you clarity tonight. All right. Let's see here. All right. That's right. No, there's no feeling like exposing the lie and learning about truth. Absolutely. All right. Let's see here. All right. I've never heard of that. Okay, we're going to give clarity. It's nothing wrong with it. That's why we're here tonight. And I encourage you guys, share this video, download this video, because a lot of times when I post videos, they disappear. They mysteriously disappear. All right. So, but let me go ahead and break down this number here, why it's important, right? 6 million is a Kabbalistic number, right? It is numerologically predetermined, and through various dark conjuring rites, supernaturally imbued with power. As a result, it can never be changed. Well, what does this mean, right? The 6 million number, right? That's a number that has been used. It's a number, an important number in the Kabbalistic teachings. So this is critical. Central to the hex 6 million is the number. There are never more deaths. There are never less than 6 million is the number. It must be ritually repeated and publicly acknowledged, right? So 6 million never refers to actual deaths. Let me say that again. 6 million never refers to actual deaths. It is purely symbolic, esoteric, mystical number symbolizing the perfect results, a perfect creation, a magical great work in progress, right? Thought I had more in here. You know what? I must have accidentally didn't bring the whole lesson on the 6 million, right? But nevertheless, right? How did they get this number? How did they get this 6 million number, right? Really, it's 600,000, right? Because like I said, I thought I had it in here. I didn't put it all in here. Let me see if I could copy it in here real quick. If not, we'll do it another time. But let me see here. I'm going to see if I could update this real quick, because I really want you guys to understand the 6 million number. All right, let's see here. Let me make sure I have it here. All right, let's see here, 6 million. Yeah. You know what? I have to try to update it here. If not, we'll deal with this another time. But I do want to, let me just copy this one slide. I do want to highlight here, because you guys probably don't really understand the significance of the 6 million number. Actually, you know what? We'll revisit it, and I'll give you more detailed information on that number 6 million. All right. I thought I had it in here, but nevertheless, right? So 6 million is the number, and how they come up with that number. They believe that there is 600,000 characters in the Torah, right? And so they multiply it by 10, right? The 10th letter, the Yod, right? That's how they come up with the 6 million number. Okay, so we'll deal with that more another time. I thought I had it in here, the full details on it, but I'll make sure I make it a point to go give you more information on that. But 6 million is a Kabbalistic number again, right? It is numerologically predetermined, and through various dark conjuring rites, supernaturally imbued with power. As a result, it can never be changed, never ever be changed. This is critical to the hex. 6 million is the number. There are never more deaths. There are never less. 6 million is the number. It must be ritually repeated and publicly acknowledged. 6 million never refers to actual deaths. It is purely symbolic, esoteric, mystical number symbolizing the perfect result, a perfect creation, a magic great work in progress. You know, the number 6 is what? The day that man was created on, right? Number 6, the sixth day. We know when we look at 666, that is what? The number of man, the system of man. So we see 6, right, stands for the sixth day that man was created. And then when we see 600,000, it's believed that there's 600,000 characters and the far as letters that make up the Torah, and then you multiply it by 10, which is the Yad, right? Which means redemption. It means salvation, right? The outstretched arms of the Most High. So you multiply that 600,000 times the Yad, which you get the number 6 million. So it is a symbolic number, as I pointed out. So there are never more deaths than there are never less than 6 million. There's never more than 6 million. There's never less than the number 6 million. 6 million is the number. It must be ritually repeated and publicly acknowledged. So another key word I want to highlight, and we'll circle back to 6 million, right? Media, right? The main means of mass communication, plural form of medium, right? And this is the key, right? When we understand medium, right? Broadcasting, publishing, the internet. These are all part of what? The media, which is what? The plural of medium. And medium is important when you start dealing with and understanding witchcraft, right? Another key word I want to deal with is the word charms, because I'm going to show you how we have been charmed. Our brothers and sisters are under a charm, right? Because the key is getting others publicly to what? Acknowledge that number and other hexes, you know, that are being casted before us, right? Identity, right? The word Semitic and other words that are being used as a charm that now have us what? Reciting these words and pushing the agenda. So charm, incantation, magic, charm. But notice what it says here. Magic, spell, incantation, song, lamentation, in other words, mourning. But notice here, enchantment, religious formula, from canary to sing, right? Canary, sing. That's the key to a lot of the things, is to get us to what? Recite, to regurgitate, right? The verb form of this word charm, it means to recite or cast a magic spell, to enchant, to fill, in other words, someone with desire. You notice how our brothers and sisters are filled with the desire to hate, to literally hate us. They are filled with the desire to come against their own brothers and sisters, right? To push what the agendas. They are pushing another Israel. They actually pushing Israeli, but under that delusion, under that charm. Remember, 6 million number, right? Magic spell is continuously rehearsed through the media, right? Let me give you an example, right? Because remember here, there are never more deaths. There are never less. 6 million is the number. It must be ritually repeated, publicly acknowledged. So let me show you how it's publicly repeated and how it's publicly acknowledged. Right? October 18th, 1918, right? 1 billion fund to rebuild Jewry. Jewry, that means the Jewish community ghetto, so to speak, or neighborhoods, because Jewry, that's basically what it is. It's the neighborhoods of the Jews. That's what they're really dealing with right here. So New York Times, October 18, 1918. But notice in this article what you're going to see. I put the screen prints up on the screen so you can actually see how to go to it. You can go to New York Times archives. You have to open up an account like I do to be able to get to these articles here, but it's there and you could download the PDF, right? October 18th, 1918, printed headline. 1 million fund to rebuild Jewry. 6 million souls will need help to resume normal life when war is ended. Loans without interest. Committee of American Jews laid plans for the greatest humanitarian task in history. 6 million Jews need help. Wait a minute. This is well before the Holocaust. We see well before the Holocaust in 1918 that we see a Times article, right, stating that there's 6 million Jews that are in need of help. And this is the screen print. This is the PDF that I downloaded, right? So you can actually see that this is real. This is the actual article. Have plenty of them, but this is the actual article. 6 million souls will need help to resume normal life when war is ended. Loans without interest, right? But let's not stop there. Ukrainian Jews aim to stop pogroms. New York Times, September 8th, 1919, right? And this is, again, you see here that 127,000 Jews have been killed and 6 million, there's the number again, 6 million are in peril. Now we're dealing with Ukraine. Ukrainian Jews aim to stop pogroms. All right. And here's the actual article that I downloaded from the New York Times website. Right. November 12th, 1919 tells sad plight of Jews. New York Times again. There's other news outlets that you could go to, but primarily I focused on the New York Times. The successive blows of contending armies have all but broken the back of European Jewry. He said, and have reduced to tragically unbelievable poverty, starvation, and disease of about 6 million souls, or half the Jewish populations of the earth. Notice what we see again, 6 million souls, or half the Jewish population of the earth. 6 million souls. Remember what I shared with you about that number, 6 million. And here's the article again that I downloaded from the archives of the New York Times. Let's go again. Jewish War AIDS gets 100,000 gift, and this is New York Times, May 7th, 1920, well before the Holocaust. Look at what it says here. The Fund for Jewish War suffers in Central and Eastern Europe, where 6 million face horrifying conditions of famine. Right? It goes on to say the Jewish War aid gets $100,000 gift. Okay? And here's that article, right? And at the bottom here, you see we're 6 million, even though this text is in the way, but it's 6 million. You see 6 million is right behind this text. Okay? Why are these articles important? Why are these articles important? The Jewish community began to promote the narrative of 6 million Jewish victims 30 years before the Holocaust. 30 years, right? And then when we think about the meaning of the Holocaust, what does that word Holocaust mean? If we go to the Oxford Dictionary definition of this word, notice what it says. The mass murder of Jews under the German Nazi regime during the period of 1941 through 1945. Now, I want to make this clear. I am not trying to belittle or downplay any deaths, any lives that was lost during the Holocaust. I want to make that clear. That's not what this is about. This is giving clarity about numbers, because notice here it says more than 6 million European Jews, as well as others, persecuted groups, were murdered at concentration camps such as Auschwitz. And I'm going to show you that 6 million number is not correct. It's not an accurate number. But notice we see Holocaust and you see the 6 million number here. So let's go to the etymology dictionary definition of Holocaust. Notice what it says: sacrifice by fire, burnt offering, a thing wholly burnt, burnt whole. Interesting how that word Holocaust, right? We see that it, a burnt offering, sacrifice by fire, right? Originally a Bible word for burnt offering. Massacre, destruction of a large number of persons. The Holocaust, Nazi genocide used in World War II, first recorded 1957. All right. So you see, gives us some information on here, but originally a Bible word for burnt offering. Holocaust, interesting, right? Let's go to Allah, right? Allah. Let's see what it means here. It says, right? He immigrated to Israel, was brought up, was taken up. He caused to go up on altars said of sacrifices. All right. Just giving you the actual word that we would see for burnt offering, right? And was offered, said of a sacrifice. He elevated praise. He lifted himself up. But I don't see the word Holocaust. That's what we're not seeing here. Okay? And this is a comprehensive etymological dictionary of the Hebrew language. So the word Holocaust has the overtones of human sacrifice. It just has the overtones of connecting that to human sacrifices. All right. But anyway, when did the burnt offering ever represent human sacrifice? That's a good question that we should ask. Right. But it's a whole nother group of things that we can really go into, but we're just not going to go into a lot of it tonight because I got a lot of information I'm sharing tonight. To fully understand this question, start by understanding bloodletting. Right? Do your research, do your history on bloodletting. Okay. So, but let me prove to you that 6 million Jews, right, were not killed during the Holocaust, right? During 1941 to 1945 or whatever. Let me show you here. This is an article titled "Poland Agree to Change Auschwitz Tablets," right? Notice what this says. This is coming from the New York Times. I want to make sure that no one can say that I'm trying to make up stuff. I'm trying to minimize or insult a group of people that had to deal with these atrocities. That's not what I'm dealing with. That's not what I'm doing. I'm giving actual historical facts, records. New York Times. Poland agrees to changing Auschwitz tablets after 50 years of deflecting the request of Jewish groups. So other Jewish groups know that there was not 6 million people. And initially at Auschwitz, they were saying 4 million Jews were burnt in those incinerators. All right. So the Polish government has agreed to change the wording on stone tablets at Auschwitz and Birkenau, the adjacent Nazi camps where more than 1 million Jews died during World War II. Notice it says 1 million Jews. It did not say 4 million Jews. It went from 4 million down to 1 million. So just at Auschwitz alone, to be reduced by 3 million Jews just at this one location, that completely knocks that number down from 6 million to down to no more than 3 million at max. But let me pull up more on this from this article. The move follows decades of appeals by Jewish groups who say the current plaques do not fully reflect the suffering of Jews and and focus too heavily on the camp's non-Jewish victims. While thousands of non-Jews were among the estimated 1.5 million killed at Auschwitz. The victims were predominantly Jews. So out of 1.5 million, they are saying that, most of them were Jews. But there was others that are not mentioned, right? So notice here, to the left, 4 million Jews, right? From 1940 through 1945. Now, with the actual tablet to the right here, it says, forever let this place be a cry of despair and a warning to humanity, where the Nazi murdered about 1.5 million men, women, and children, mainly Jews, from various countries of Europe. So to the left, 4 million, and they were saying a total of 6 million. So if you subtract 3 million from the 4 million, that's going to bring it down to 1 million. So this knocks the number of 6 million Jews in half, at least in half. I have other sources that give more of an accurate number, but I just wanted to share this with you. These are some of the charms that we had to deal with and continue to regurgitate. What's unfortunate is some will watch this and they will say that, hey, Pastor Kelly is promoting hate. No, I'm not. There's nothing hateful that I stated out of my mouth, but I'm giving you actual numbers, right? When we try to talk about our history, we get told all the time that while we keep talking about let the past be the past, we should be able to get over it. Well, guess what? We lost tens of millions, tens and tens of millions that didn't even make it to make it off the shores of Africa. But we don't talk about that. How those ships had sharks following them. It was the blood saturated the seas of our ancestors. But we don't talk about that. Right? Our history gets tossed aside. Our history, we get told, why you got to keep talking about that? Now, yes, it's sad that, when we start dealing with the situation with the Hitler and all that other, the atrocities there. But guess what? Right? We had to deal with more than one type of Hitler. We had to deal with multiple Hitlers as a community. We had to deal with, nations upon nations entering into a asiento, being led by the Roman Catholic Church, and scattered us to the four corners of this earth. But when we talk about it, why can't we get over it? All we got out of our pain, our suffering, is a museum in DC. A museum. We get a museum that we got to pay to get inside. We got a museum. Others are getting reparations. Others are getting compensated, but we get a museum. See, we hear this all the time. No one, and it's historically proven that not a single community has gone through what our community has gone through. No other community has gone through the atrocities as our community has gone through. And that is a fact. You have Jewish scholars that acknowledge that as well. But yet we're supposed to toss this aside, right? So you see, this is what? A charm. This is information that has continued to be regurgitated. But we won't see the church talk about what I just presented. We won't see them talk about this. They'll talk about how, Pastor Kelly, that Hebrew Israelite put a label of moderate on me. When the true moderates was Calvinists. Calvinists was called the moderates, right? It's funny how they try to put that label on our community. No, I'm not a moderate. I'm an Israelite who believe in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, who honor the law, statutes, and commandments, who honor the holy days, who honor the feast days that the Most High set aside. We don't do the Christmas thing anymore. Well, actually, we really didn't do it, but we don't do the Easter thing. We don't do any of those things in our assembly. We came out of Christianity. We came out of Catholicism. We came out of the influence of Judaism. We came out of that stuff. And I am a pastor that had been pastoring for almost 14 years. Helped others start ministries and built their ministries from scratch, from the ground up. Got the track record to prove this. I can have my old pastor come up and talk. I can have the apostle I sat up under when I was under the apostolic movement, right? I can have him come up on here who ran for office, right? And I supported him. Apostle Leon Benjamin. He'll tell you how my wife and I, we worked our fingers to the bone to help establish his ministry. Put in the work. Challenge anyone who try to say that I'm going to hell. And I'll prove anyone that says that don't know the Bible, don't know the Dabar HaKwadash. Again, who won come test. So now that we got that out of the way, let's deal with Numbers chapter 12, verse 1, right? Let's deal with Kush. Let's deal with the term Ethiopian. Let's deal with this because this is one of the scriptures that are taken out of context, right? This is one of those scriptures that's taken out of context. And matter of fact, before we do that, because I gave you a little information about Zionism, right? About the 6 million number. Let me show you another key, because Zionism was all about what, as the Britannica gave us a little information, said that they want to establish what, the new Jewish state. Let's go back to that slide real quick, and then we'll break down Kushi. All right, let's go back here. Right? It says here, right? Zionism, Jewish nationalist movement that has had as its goal the creation and support of a Jewish national state. Notice it did not say Israel. It said a Jewish national state in Palestine, the ancient homeland of the Jews. So let's kill two birds with one stone. First, let's deal with the word Jew real quick, and then we'll deal with another key piece of information. No, you know what? We're not going to deal with Jew yet, but let's deal with a key piece of information, because notice they said a Jewish national state, right? The Zionists did not care to establish Israel. They want to create a new Jewish state. And let me prove it to you. Let me prove it to you. Let me prove it to you. Let me go to this slide here, and then we'll go back to explaining Kush. Let me bring it up here. Right now, I know some of you guys probably trying to figure out what is this on the screen, right? This is coming from the archives.gov. As a matter of fact, I am going to copy this link. I'm going to copy this link so that way you guys can download this link at your leisure. I'm going to copy this link into the comment section. Right? They're not going to talk about this, right? You know, Israel, right? The Hebrew Israelites, we're the enemies, right? We're the threats, right? So let me enlighten you guys, especially some of the new people that are here. What you see on here is the letter that President Harry Truman signed, right? To officially recognize not the Jewish state. Yeah, let me see. As you see here, it says the government has been informed that a Jewish state. Let me see if I can zoom this. Right? You guys can see that, right? Notice what it says on your screen. If you can read what is on your screen, type 1. And I want you guys to understand this. Notice what you see on your screen. It says this government has been informed that a Jewish state has been proclaimed in Palestine, and recognition has been requested by the provisional government thereof. The United States recognizes the provisional government as the de facto authority of, notice what you see on your screen, right? Can you guys write on the screen, Rami, just write in the comment section your observation of this letter. What stands out the most about this letter? And then we'll highlight it. Let me enlarge it a little more. I think that's the best I could do it before I zoom in. All right. So type in the comment section of what stands out to you about this letter. And I'm gonna confirm it. But what stands out about this letter? This is Harry Truman, May 14th, 1948. This is Harry Truman, the former Harry Truman. Oh, there you go. You guys are paying attention, right? W. Mac, Jewish state is scratched out, right? Insert a provisional. Yep. The word new, right? Provisional and state. You guys are on it. Guess what? You're absolutely correct, right? As the de facto authority of the what? President Truman crossed out the new Jewish state and wrote on top of it, State of Israel. If President Truman had not crossed it out, right now Israel would be called the new Jewish state. And Harry Truman had a relationship with the Jewish community. He had a few choice words for him, though, right? It's amazing because I got screen prints of some of the things that he said about that community, right? And a matter of fact, I'm gonna bring it in here. I'm gonna bring it in. But let me put this back in its regular view so that way I can show it here. Right? The government has been informed that a Jewish state has been proclaimed in Palestine and recognition has been requested by the provisional government thereof. The United States recognizes the provisional government as the de facto authority of the what? New Jewish state of Israel. Right? You see it right there. It's right in your face. It's right in your face, family. So originally, right? Originally, they were not trying to reestablish Israel. They were trying to create the new Jewish state. The new Jewish state. Let me get another thing here. Let me just get a couple more words here about a couple of comments that Truman rather, made about the Jewish community. Let me see if I have it here. Right? Let's see if they refer to him as being anti-Semitic. Let me show you what Truman had to say about the Jewish community. I may not have, see, I thought I had it in here. Actually, I know where it is. Let me go to the other slide. I know exactly where it is. See, I have so many presentations, family. Let's see here. I think it's over here. Let's see here. And I want you guys to pay attention to what President Truman said about. All right, yeah, here it is. Here it is. And family, I'm glad that I keep my screen prints, right? Because it's hard to get this now. I don't even think if you go to, I still got the link, but I think they even changed the his page. Let me bring it in here, right? Let me show you what Harry Truman said about the Jewish community, right, during his time. Yet when they, in other words, the Jews have power, physical, financial, or political, neither Hitler nor Stalin has anything on them for cruelty. This is President Harry Truman, right? This is coming from the Truman, his journal, right? This is coming from his diary. I screen printed. So a lot of times these links change up. And so I make a screen print so that way I can record it, right? So that way you see that, hey, Pastor is not making this up. This is how I do my research. This is how I save and make bookmarks, right? So you see, this is President Truman. This is his diary, 1947. And you see exactly his comments about the Jewish community, right? He says, he said, the Jews I find are very, very selfish. They care not about how many Estonians, Latvians, Finns, Poles, Yugoslavs, or Greeks get murdered or mistreated and displaced persons as long as the Jews get special treatment. Yet when they have power, physical, financial, or political, neither Hitler nor Stalin has anything on them for cruelty or mistreatment to the underdog. Put an underdog on top. It makes no difference whether his name is Russian, Jewish, and it names, he goes on, this is not an ending of it, but he goes on and names more. But notice what he says here, just to be fair, what he said, it makes no difference whether his name is Russian, Jewish, Negro, management, labor, Mormon, Baptist. He goes haywire. I found very, very few who remember their past conditions when prosperity comes. This is what he said about the Jewish community at that time, right? Look at what he said again. Look at what he said again. He said here, Let me go back here. Let's see here. Again, this is what he says. The Jews I find are very selfish. They care not how many Estonian Finns, and you see it here. But let me see. It was another one I thought I had here. Let me make sure I got the other one. I think I missed something here. All right. Yeah, I thought I had some additional screenshots. But nevertheless, but notice right here, yet when they have power, physical, financial, or political, neither Hitler nor Stalin has anything on them for cruelty or mistreatment to the underdog. And that is the word of former president, the late Harry Truman, right? This is not a break here. So I wanted to make sure I kind of highlighted these articles here. I wanted to make sure I highlighted these articles here. All right, let's see here. Let's see what's going on here. All right, I want to say good night to my sister, Shyne. Definitely would reach out to you before the weekend is out. Appreciate you, sis. All right. So again, family, this is not, they're not going to talk about this, right? The Christian community won't talk about these things. See, not Hitler, but Harry Truman documented inside his journal, his diary, his thoughts about the Jewish community, and he had a great relationship with them. But what made him cross out the new Jewish state and put the state of Israel? What made him do that? I believe it was the Most High preventing that from happening. I believe that. I stand firm on what I believe. All right. So let's go ahead and let's deal with Kush real quick. We got as you can see, this is a large presentation and it's not even close to the actual. Let's see here. All right. We're not going to deal with Jeremiah because I dealt with Jeremiah before. We're not going to deal with Jeremiah just for the sake of time. But let's go back to Numbers chapter 12, and we're going to deal with Kush or Kushi. Numbers chapter 12, verse 1. And Miriam, right? And Aaron, Aharon, spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian, right? Kashai or Kashayath, right? Or Kushai, right? Some would say Kushai. Not getting into all this, the different pronunciations. Right now, I'm dealing with ancient Hebrew. Some of you guys have heard the term Kush or Kushi, Kushi, however you want to pronounce it. But nevertheless, Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, Laquak, for he had married an Ethiopian woman, right? Kashai or Kashayath, right? Woman, Asha. Now, in Christianity, they'll teach that, hey, well, Moses married the Ethiopian. This shows that we have black people in the Bible because Moses, he married a black woman. That's an interracial marriage. No, Moses was and is a dark melanated man, period. Can't get around it, right? He married a woman of Ethiopia. Right. But I want to make sure you guys understand here. The issue had nothing to do with skin complexion. Right. It had everything to do with culture. That was the concern, because all of them were melanated. The Ethiopians, the Israelites, the Egyptians, they all were melanated people. And we know we come in different shades, of course, but they all were melanated people. All right. So again, Miriam, Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. So did Miriam and Aaron have an issue with Moses' wife complexion, right? So I'm not going to get into Jeremiah. I'm going to skip down to another text because I just for the sake of time, I want to cut down to Amos chapter 9. Let's just go to Amos chapter 9. And I encourage you guys go look at some of my teachings, especially anything but the Negro. And I deal with the proper understanding of Jeremiah chapter 14, which is many are taking it out of context. And I give you proper clarity that, yes, they are dealing with Israel skin complexion during a time of famine. All right. But anyway, Amos chapter 9, verse 7. Right. Because and I'm going to let you hear a rabbi talk about this text here before I expound on it, because some from within the Christian church will try to say, oh, no, that scripture is not dealing with skin complexion. Yes, it is. And I'm going to let you hear from Rabbi Shapira. I want to let you hear what he said about this text real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and bring it together. All right. So let's go ahead and bring it in. Let's bring it in. All right. Let me go ahead and play Rabbi. All right. Rabbi Shapira. And this is a rabbi reading this particular chapter woke him up to recognizing that we are the people of the book, that we are the remnant, the scattered. Let me allow you to hear his testimony bearing witness. Here we go.
According to Amos chapter 9, verse 7. Check this out. I saw this verse. I was floored. It says Israel, these northern tribes, Nikreu, they are called Kushim. They call Kushim. The word Kushim comes from the word Kush. Kush is Ethiopia, or the area surrounding Ethiopia. And it says that Israel is likened, or they are called Kushim, as it is say. Kushim comes from the word black. As it is says, this is from the Talmud, quoting Amos chapter 9, verse 7, Alo kebnei Kushim atem li. You are Israel like the sons of the Kushim. You, Israel, are called Kushim. Why? You are like the Kushim, declares the Lord. Why? Because Israel is there in the Kush. The prophet is telling us that there is part of Israel, let's call them the remnant. Let's call them those who have been scattered, who are like the Kushim. Now, when the prophets speak about them, he's not speaking about them in a favorable way. Why? Because they have been scattered. They have been gone. They are no longer there. Look at this. It says in Amos, to me, O Israelite, you are just like it's translated as Ethiopians, but it is not say Ethiopians. That's not what Hebrew Holy Tongue says. Let us not manipulate the Holy Tongue. It says Kushim, atem libnei Israel. You are like the Kushim, declares the Lord. Why? Because Israel is there in the Kush. True, I brought Israel up from the land of Egypt, but also the Philistines from Kaftor and the Armenians from Kir. Okay? Israel, number one, make yourself the note. Israel has a name. And one of the names that Israel is called by is Kushim. Kushim is a generic name for anybody who is black. Now, I want to be careful here. I am not saying that every black person is from the seed of Israel. That's not what I'm saying.
All right. So you guys heard it. Right. So he's making it clear just what I'm going to further prove. He's making it clear that he's not saying every dark-skinned person, melanated person, is Israel, right? But he's making it clear that when you see the word Kushi, right? And he even referred to the Talmud as well, because it's in the Talmud about Israel being dark, melanated, right? So he's sharing his revelation at that time. That's why you hear the excitement in his voice. That's why his voice is hoarse, because he's making it clear, like, wait a minute. He just got the revelation. It really hit him that, guess what? We are the people of the book. He says it. There's a lot of politics that's going on over in Israel right now. So let's go to Amos that he's highlighting, Amos chapter 9. Let's highlight it. It says here, right? And excuse me for the typo, because it's supposed to say here 9, but it says 17. So I needed to correct it, and I forgot to correct my slide. So it's Amos chapter 9, verse 7. Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? Right? So as, right? This right here, as, is saying having the characteristics. This is not dealing with their spirit, even though, as he pointed out, they're not referring to Israel in a favorable way here because Israel was scattered. This is referring to skin complexion, their appearance. Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O Israel, saith Yahweh? This is coming from the 1917 Tanakh. Right? When we go to the Peshitta, right, which is the Aramaic version of the text that has nothing to do with the Greek translations, but the Aramaic translation of the text, right, for those that are caught up with don't want to read the New Testament per se because the Greek manuscripts, well, go to the Peshitta. The Peshitta, the Aramaic manuscripts were not dependent on the Greek manuscripts. That's a fact. So behold, you are like the Ethiopians to me, O children of Israel, like having what? The characteristics. That's what it means. So let's deal with the Hebrew definition of Kushi, right? Notice what it says. Kushi, Kushite, Ethiopians. But notice what it says here, Kushi or Ethiopian, see Kushan, their blackness. So we're dealing with skin complexion, right? Now, of course, you have the Ethiopians per se, far as the nation, but that word Kushi can be used for the Ethiopian nation, but it can also be used for what? A dark-skinned person. Today, we'll say black. And notice again, when I go back, and let me go back to that video, notice how they're using Kushi. When I say they, the Jewish community, as they are harassing. Let me see here. I think it's this one right here, but let's see.
Minutes after the rally, 1,000 Israelis rioted, attacking African homes and businesses and assaulting any African they found in the streets. Here is footage shot by one of the participants in the riot, a supporter of Mikhail Ben-Ari. Days later, Yulia Shmuelov-Belkovich, at the time a legislator from the centrist opposition party Kadima, called for Israelis who advocate for the Africans to be locked in prison camps alongside the asylum seekers.
אני מסכם בדיוק. דרך אגב, מעבירה אותם גם לאותו מקום שאנחנו בונים עכשיו את המחנות שיעבדו שם.
According to the Israeli Coalition Against Racism, incidents of racist incitement by Israeli public figures doubled in 2012. In many cases, the targets of their hateful invective were not Palestinians, but African migrants.
Immigrants often have to meet acceptance criteria, but in Israel, it's been revealed some women have been forcibly medicated so that they don't become pregnant. What's more, many of the Ethiopian migrants who are of Jewish descent were being given the contraceptive without their knowledge, despite the drug's hazardous side effects. Archie's Paula Sleer has the story.
When I first arrived at the Gwanda transit camp, I got pregnant and I gave birth. They told me, if you don't take the shot, we won't give you a ticket. So I took the shot, but I didn't know that it would prevent pregnancies. I didn't know.
But more and more Israeli women were becoming suspicious, like Racheli Mangoli, who runs a youth center in an Ethiopian neighborhood. In 4 years, only one child was born here, an alarming statistic in a community where family wealth is counted by the number of children, and where national figures show that the birth rate among Ethiopian women in Israel has dropped by 50%. Two-thirds of Ethiopian women have been taking it without being informed that they don't have to. And now, for the first time, an Israeli official has admitted authorities have been administering it to them. In January this year, the Director General of the Health Ministry ordered all gynecologists working for or with the health maintenance organizations not to.
Minutes after the rally, 1,000 Israelis rioted, attacking African homes and businesses and assaulting.
Immigrants often have to meet acceptance criteria, but in Israel, it's been revealed.
I believe a few of the organizations who were responsible for bringing Ethiopian immigrants to Israel decided to administer a contraceptive to them.
להתחיל לאסוף את המסתננים, לא צריך לחכות לבג"ץ, לא צריך שום דבר.
אני רואה חרא מחוץ לבית שלי, יריקות, פסיכופטים, אנשים שרק מחפשים איך לרצוח אותי בעיניים שלהם, אבל אף אחד לא מאמין לנו. אנחנו גזענים כדי לרצות לשמור על החיים שלנו ועל השפיעות שלנו. אז אני גאה בלהיות גזענית, אם אני גזענית בשביל לשמור על החיים שלי, אז אני
את עם קושי לנסוע! את נשואה עם קושי! לכי את והוא! תלכי מפה! תלכי! את נשואה עם קושי! לכי! לא מתביישת!
My apologies, family. I had to make sure I got the right presentation. I forgot to label the actual slide, or should I say the video, but you hear how they use the word Kushi interchangeable with nigger, right? And you see even one of the Jewish people in that riot, so to speak, threatening to sodomize the man, the Kushi, right, that they refer to, because the commotion is about him marrying a Jewish woman, Caucasian woman. That's what that whole commotion is about, right? But notice they use the word Kushi, not referring to Ethiopian, the nation, but they're dealing with what? The color of his skin. They're using it interchangeably with the word nigger, right? Think about what I dealt with when I dealt with the whole situation with Garfield, when I was showing how they misrepresented the text, right? A source, when they superimposed and wrote in there that they hated to be called black. They did not like being called black, when actually the source said they did not want to be called Negro because Negro meant slave, right? So again, here, that's why I wanted you to hear exactly how they express and use the word Kushi, right? Because Kushi is not just referring to the Ethiopians, in other words, a Hamitic people, but it's also used interchangeably with skin complexion. All right. So I want to make sure that we understand that moving forward. So if you hear or see the word Kushi, don't be offended. Don't be offended if you hear any of these terms. Don't make it seem as if don't do the work of the people that have enslaved us. Don't perpetuate their behavior. Right? Don't hate on Africans, other Africans. Don't hate on them. Many of them are in the same boat like us, right? Being exploited. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. Let's be the true Israel that we're called to be. But notice what you see here. Again, Kushi, right? It says, see Kushan, their blackness, right? So let's go to Kushan. We go to Kushan. Notice what it says. Kushan, their blackness, right? And we see a scripture that's highlighted that uses the tense of Kushan, right? But here's another source, the prophets Nevi'im, right? The holy translation of the holy text, right? Of the Tanakh, right? But we see this is primarily focusing on the prophets, right? But as you see here in verse 7, Amos chapter 9, verse 7, it says, to me, O Israelites, you are just like the Ethiopians. All right. So this is referring to skin complexion, right? Key prophecy here, Isaiah 18, verse 1 through 3. It says, woe to the land shadowing with wings, which is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, right? And we see Kawash, or some would say Kush. When I say Kawash, I'm saying it from the ancient Hebrew, right? But notice what it says, beyond, right? Kanap, Yam, or Kanapim, right? However we want to pronounce it, but I'm doing it ancient again. Kanap, Yam, beyond the rivers, Nahar of Ethiopia, Kawash, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Now, in this text, right, I'm going to explain this text here because it goes on verse 2. It says, that sendeth ambassadors by the sea, even in vessels of bulrushes upon the waters, saying, go ye swift messenger to a nation scattered and peeled, to a people terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden down, whose land the rivers have spoiled. Right, verse 3, all ye inhabitants of the world and dwellers on the earth, see ye when he lifted up an ensign on the mountains, and when he bloweth a trumpet, hear ye. So many would believe and teach that this text is dealing with Ethiopian, right? Kush, the nation, right? Which they are completely incorrect, right? Many believe and teach that this text, Isaiah prophesied the judgment against the ancient nation of Ethiopia. Somewhere around 714 BC, King So, or Shabako, conquered and established the 25th dynasty. Ethiopia maintained its control over Egypt until 633 BC, when the Egyptians, Psammetichus, recaptured the throne and put an end to the Ethiopian domination. But this prophecy has nothing to do with the Ethiopians. It has everything to do with Israel. Why? Because here's another prophecy that connects right to this prophecy, because there is a beyond the rivers of Ethiopia prophecy by another prophet, Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 9 through 10. And we see here, for then will I turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of Yahweh to serve him with one consent. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even my daughter of my disperse, shall bring my offering. All right, so Kawash or Kush, right? Beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, right? Here's the map, right? Now we see the ocean, the Ethiopiacus Ocean, or the Ethiopian Ocean, the Kush or Kawash Ocean, right? We know that this region is Ethiopia, so we can even, as Zion Lex did an excellent job breaking this down. And I encourage you guys to take a look at the video. I'll put it a link inside the community portion of it. When he dealt with West Africa, the prophecy of beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, take you to what? West Africa, right? But also we see here, right, the Ethiopian Ocean. So we could go even further with this prophecy, right? Not just with West Africa, we could go beyond what the ocean, right? Ethiopian Ocean, right? The waters beyond there. And when we go to the other side of there, we'll see the Americas. We'll see the Caribbean, right? We'll see the Caribbean, right? We'll see that area, right? So again, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, right? West Africa, but then we can even take it beyond that of the prophecy, even of West Africa, but the Israelites in West Africa, beyond, and then beyond this coast here, Brazil, the Barbados, Jamaica, Panamania, also the Americas in terms of the United States of the Americas, right? So again, we'll also see in Tacitus, right, the Histories, Volume 1 and 2. Notice how he described Israel here, right? It says here, others say that in the region of, or the reign of Iris, the superfluous, excuse me for butchering this word, population of Egypt under the leadership of Hierosolamus and Judah discharged itself upon the neighboring districts. While there are many who think the Jews, right, Judah and Ethiopian stock, right? This dealing with their skin complexion, right? Because of what? They look like Ethiopians. You see where we're going at with this? They look like Israel, look like Ethiopians. This is we get back to that word Kushi or Kush or Kawash, right? So did Miriam and Aaron have an issue with Moses' wife's skin complexion? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, family. Absolutely not. Let's give it a garbage can for anyone that will poorly teach this here. Everyone, let's say hello to Sister Carol. Let's give Sister Carol show Sister Carol some love. Matter of fact, Sister Carol, this is for you for joining us tonight. This is a special animation for you, Sister Carol. Here we go. Where is it? All right. So let's give the garbage can to anyone that's teaching the junk doctrine that we teaching contrary to what I have just presented to you guys tonight. All right. Because family, again, we have to make sure we teaching this truth correctly. Right. There's a lot, again, there's this brothers and sisters that are still inside that church supporting the Israeli, but they're not supporting Israel, right? They're supporting a whole nother group of people and constantly throwing us under the bus. I can guarantee you won't see conversations on the stuff I shared here. We know why. We know why. We know why. All right. So see a lot of trolls here, boy. I tell you, man, I've been blocking trolls quite often tonight. All right. So let's see here. Let's touch on. Let's see. Do we want to go into this right here? I can go into it, but do I want to deal with it tonight? Yeah, this is dealing with the DNA. But you know what? Let's deal with the word Jew, and we may double back on DNA. Let's deal with the word Jew real quick. Let's deal with this word Jew. All right, let's deal with Jew. Let's go to this source. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Let's go to this source. Let's go to the Jewish Almanac, page 3. For those that insist that we are Jews. No, we're not the original Jews. right? We are Israelites. I am an Israelite. I am not an original Jew, right? The word Jew should never be used synonymous to Israel because it's not, right? It should not be used synonymously or interchangeably with the word Hebrew. This is coming from the Jewish Almanac. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. The first Hebrews may not have been Jews at all, and contemporary Palestinians saying the same thing about them. So even in their own source, they tell you that, hey, you're not supposed to use that word Jew interchangeably with Israel, use interchangeably with Hebrew, but we still insist on doing it anyway. Many of our brothers and sisters keep calling themselves the original Jews. You're not the original Jews. You're not the original Jews. Let me say it again. You are not the original Jews. We are the original Israelites. We are the ancient people of the book.
What?
That's right. Let's stop calling ourselves Jews. We are not Jews. We are ancient Israelites. We are Israelites. We are Hebrews. Now, if you want to call yourself a Jew, that's because you're either what? As we get to the law of return. Matter of fact, let me go to the law of return to tell you what that word, what it means to be a Jew, right? Let's go to the law of return, right? The law of return. This is coming from the Israel Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? It says here, defining the word Jew, for the purpose of this law, Jew means a person who was born of a Jewish mother or has become converted to Judaism and who is not a member of another religion, right? So guess what? Unless you are born to a Jewish mother or you are practicing or converted to Judaism, right? That's the only way you can practice or be a Jew according to the law of return, Aliyah, right? So anyone can be a Jew, but not everyone can be Israel. Not everyone can be the blood descendant of Israel, as I just proved here. All right. So let's go back to this here. Strictly speaking, it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. The first Hebrews may not have been Jews at all. Why? Because that word Jew is not an ancient word. If that word Jew was being used in the 4th century, how come we don't see it in the Latin Vulgate? Matter of fact, let me pull up the Latin Vulgate. Let's pull up the Latin Vulgate. And I'm just using it as a source. This is the Latin Vulgate right here, right? This is Matthew chapter 27, verse 29. And you'll see this verse right here. And plaiting a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head and a reed in his right hand, and bowing the knee before him, they mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of," not supposed to be Jews, right? Notice what we see, Udeorum. That's the Hebrew word for Judah. That's not Hebrew, but the Greek word, right? Udeorum. You don't see Jew. Udeorum. This is the 4th century Latin Vulgate online. See, this is what Shyne was saying about when he was referring to the older, as far as like the Christian Bibles, and as he pointed out, and the Tanakh, you don't see the word Jew. That's what he was trying to refer to, like especially when you're dealing with what he was making reference to, the Old Testament. Then he didn't really articulate himself clearly, right? But again, Udeorum, right? That is Judah right there. Not Jew, Judah. No, Jew is not short of Judah. No, that word did not develop in the Hebrew. That's not a Hebrew word. That's a French/Old English word, right? Okay, so matter of fact, let me see something here. All right, let me show something else here. Let's get back here. All right. We dealt with this in part when we did this last week, when we really dealt with the word Jew. I'll do this one more time, right? Do I have one of my books here? Oh, I think I left that. Oh, matter of fact, I want to say this again, family. Let me put this up on the screen for you guys. All right, because I did some screen prints out of it. Let me pull this up over here. Bear with me 1 second. Get a copy of this book. Get a copy of this book. I have several etymology dictionaries, but get a copy of this book, family. At least have a physical etymology dictionary on site so you could do the comparison, right? The online dictionary, the online etymology dictionary is not as reliable as you may think. And you can see the influence of the agendas. All right, starting with the word Jew. Okay. Got another book here that I'm excited. This is going to be in the road to Savannah too, that hopefully I have it done within part 2 done this upcoming week. I'm excited about this book right here. Let me bring it up. Right. I'm excited about this book right here. Oh man, this is some nuggets in here. Some nuggets in here. Let me put it all the way up here. Right. Let me put it up here. There's some nuggets inside this book. Anyway, let me put that over here. All right. So let's get back into it. Let's break down this word Jew. And again, I can tell you all what we taught tonight so far. You won't hear any of these pastors talking about this. You won't hear the people that is coming against our community. You won't hear them talking about this. Right? The influence of that word Jew, right? You won't hear them show some of the video clips that I shared here with you guys. They won't talk about that. You won't see the evangelicals. You won't see the Pat Hagee and all these other guys. You won't see them talking about what we're talking about tonight. They'll only talk about us. We're the problem. The true Israelites who have awakened and are continuing to awaken in such a time we live in. So let's break down this word Jew, and I'm going to show you why it's important to have a physical copy of a physical etymology dictionary to do comparison. It says here, one of the Jewish race or religion. And when I saw this, it's like, wait a minute, when did the Jewish community become a race? When did they become a race? Notice it says here, it gives you the origin. It says Anglo-French. Then we see it says trying to give the impression that this word came from the Latin udeum, right? Nominative of udeus, from the Greek deos, and then we see Semitic Judae or Judahai, or excuse me, Jehudai, all right, or Yehudi, or Yehuda, all right. Anyway, right, what is a Jew? Now let's compare it here, right? This is coming from that source I told you, the book that I recommend you guys purchasing, the Etymology Dictionary. But notice you don't see that entry of a Jewish race. Let's go back to the Etymology Dictionary, right? Notice what you see here. One of the Jewish race or religion. One of the Jewish race. One of, there's many. When did they even become a race? Right? That's a whole nother discussion. But when we go to the Etymology Dictionary that I told you about, this is a screen print in the background, right? But this is what it says. Borrowed through Anglo-French, right? Borrowed through Anglo-French. Judah, name of the fourth son of Jacob. Right now, if you want to utilize this word Jew and you use it according to how this says, it's saying that this word Jew is used interchangeably with Judah, not with Israel. That's what you notice. You don't see that here. You don't see it being used interchangeably with Israel, right? Let's see up here. Let's go back up here. All right, let's look into, let me go back here. All right, I didn't put it up here. Anyway, yeah. All right, so it's not, this word should never be used interchangeably with Israel. And as we highlighted in the Jewish Almanac, that we should never use this word interchangeably with Israel, right? I mean, as far as an Israelite or a Hebrew, right? Guess what? Jew, right? And it says it is incorrect to call an ancient Israelite a Jew, or to call a contemporary Jew an Israelite or a Hebrew. The Jewish Almanac, family. Can't make this up. Cannot make this up. Cannot make this up. All right. What else do we have here? Matter of fact, let me share one more piece of evidence here. Let's go to a Jewish guy by the name of Benjamin Friedman, who really gave a rebuke to his own people, his own community, for the deception behind the word Jew. This is what he says: the generally accepted secondary meaning of the word Jew today, with practically no exceptions, is made up of four almost universally believed theories. These four theories are that a so-called or self-styled Jew is a person who today professes the form of religious worship known as Judaism. Number two, a person who claims to belong to a racial group associated with the ancient Semites. Number three, a person directly the descendant of the ancient nation which thrived in Palestine in Bible history. Number four, a person blessed by divine intervention, designed with certain superior cultural character denied to other racial, religious, or national groups, all rolled into one. He goes on to say the present generally accepted secondary meaning of the word Jew is fundamentally responsible for the confusion in the minds of Christians regarding elementary tenets of the Christian faith. Saying that word Jew is a word of confusion, like I've been teaching for years. The word Jew is a word of confusion. Why? Because when you're reading Paul's letter and you see to the Jew first and to the Gentile, that is confusion. Why? Because many people are taking that word Jew and making it synonymous with all of Israel. This is why so many pastors, so many teachers that are teaching, right, the Dabar HaKodesh are what misquoting Paul. They get upset when they hear someone give proper clarity, telling them when you see the phrase Jew and Gentile together, right, that is referring to the northern and southern kingdom. Now, I'm not saying everywhere you see the word Gentile is referring to the northern kingdom, but when you see Jew and Gentile together, it's referring to the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? Jew, the southern kingdom, actually is supposed to be Judah, the southern kingdom, and Gentile, right, the other nations, right, that is representing the northern kingdom. That is a word of confusion, that word Jew. And this is what he's saying here, is that this word has caused so many problems within the Christian church. And at his time, back in the 40s, the 50s, and 60s, he was calling out the Jewish community, and he was also calling out theologians, and none of them accepted his challenge. He spent this millionaire spent his own money printing out handouts to call out the deception, the delusion of this word, and other things such as Semitic. So he's saying here again, the present generally accepted secondary meaning of the word Jew is fundamentally responsible for the confusion in the mind of Christians regarding elementary tenets of the Christian church. So he's saying just what many of you guys have been teaching, right? When you see Jew and Gentile, that is not referring to Israel and those that are not Israel. It's referring to, again, the southern kingdom, which is Judah, the Benjamites, and the Levites, and the northern kingdom, which consists of the 9 other tribes. They were also referred to as Ephraim, right? They were also referred to as Israel. So family, you won't hear them talking about this. They won't go through any of these sources. They never do. They go through their manufactured talking points, and they're just going to keep regurgitating the same old talking points. The same old talking points. Oh, well, culture, 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 we should be talking about culture. We should be focusing on Christ. When the Messiah never did away with any of the law, statutes, and commandments. He honored the law, statutes, and commandments. Apostle Paul honored the law, statutes, and commandments. The disciples honored the law, statutes, and commandments. The so-called early church honored the law, statutes, and commandments, honored the feast days, honored the Shabbat. Word of confusion, family. Word of confusion. All right, let's see here. Let's see what else he says. All right. It is an incontestable fact that the word Jew did not come into existence until the year 1775. Prior to 1775, the word Jew did not exist in any language. The word Jew was introduced into the English for the first time in the 18th century. So he's going in on it. He's giving clarity. He's giving sources. Right? Giving sources here. Matter of fact, he talks about the Latin Vulgate, like I just pointed out. In the Latin Saint Jerome 4th century Vulgate edition of the New Testament, Jesus is referred to by the genitive plural of Oudeus in the Gospels of John, by John, reference to the inscription on the cross, Oudeorum. It was the 4th century that Saint Jerome translated into Latin the manuscripts of the New Testament from the original, right? So he's making it clear. And I just highlighted, even though he's highlighting John, I highlighted Matthew. And as you see here again, going back over here, this is Matthew's chapter 27, verse 29, Oudeorum. You don't see Jew, you. You don't see that here. That's what he's referring to here. That's what he's referring to. All right, family, let me see here. Do I have anything else? I know I covered a lot inside here. Right? We could deal with the institution of race, but I'm not going to deal with that tonight. All right. I think we covered a lot here. We did, actually. Matter of fact, let me pull up one last slide here. Give you a little nugget here, which is interesting about the word Jew. All right. This is a lesson that I did titled Caught Between Two Opinions, the Deception of the English Language. Let me see if I can. This is an old presentation. Let me see here. Let me see here. All right, bear with me 1 second. Oh, this presentation. I got to clean it up. But I want to show you something here. You probably can tell how old this presentation is. Sister Carol probably remember this from way back when. This is when I did this lesson on Facebook, one of the many lessons that Facebook took down. But let me show you something about. Thought I had a more up-to-date presentation, but this is just going to look a little dated compared to my current presentations. But let me show you something here. Let me show you something here. Let me show you something here. All right. I want to show you something here. This is an interesting word here, right? When we look at the word Jew. All right. So let me take this down. All right. And let me remove this. And let me pull up this here. All right. This is a word I want to bring to your attention here. And then we're going to wrap it up. I may even drop the link here for Sister Carol, Jay Highstyle. I think I see Dr. Newell. I may drop the link here afterwards if you guys want to share any thoughts here. All right, before we wrap up. Now, this is from a lesson that I did titled The Deception of the English Language. And I really go in about the English language, right? And I deal with, the holy days versus holidays and all of that. And here I'm dealing with the word Jew. But notice what you see here, jute, right? Jute, English, Eotus or Eutus, plural, one of the ancient Germanic inhabitants of Jutland, the peninsula between modern Germany and Denmark, who with the Angles and Saxons invaded Britain in the 5th century. Notice though, traditionally they were said to have settled in Kent and Hampshire. The name is related to Old Norse Eotar or Eotar. But notice what it says. You have jute and you have jutish. Is that a coincidence that jute sound like Jew and it's an Old English word, and Jewish sound just like jutish? Is that a coincidence? Right? And yes, family, I do have a Cash App. I'll go ahead and put it in the blog here. I'm in the chat if those that want to. So all right. All right, there you go. For those that want to contribute to the work here, feel free. I'll put it inside the chat. Also, it's on the ticker on your screen. You see the Cash App as well as the PayPal. But notice again, you see jute and jutish, right? Jute and jutish. Is it just a coincidence, family? If you guys believe that it's just a coincidence, type 2, right? If you believe that it's not a coincidence, type 1. Let's see who we have. Let's see how you guys vote here. We're going to put we're going to post your votes here. All right. So if you believe that it's not a coincidence, type 1. If you believe that it is a coincidence, type 2. That the word jute, singular, sound just like Jew. And the word jutish sound just like Jewish. Right? Right? So far, it looks like it's unanimous here. Right? Unanimous. Definitely not a coincidence. Definitely not a coincidence. Appreciate all you guys for participating. Definitely not a coincidence. Definitely not a coincidence. Definitely not a coincidence. All right. So what I'm going to do, family, we're going to break this up into another part because I got to really teach on you guys. I really appreciate you guys participation tonight. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link. All right. Into the comment section. All right. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up because I still have to get ready for our Shabbat service in the morning. All right. So I dropped the link. We're going to stop right here. All right. Let me go ahead and remove this. I'm going to do that full lesson. Haven't done that lesson in a long time. let's see here. Let me pull back up this other source here. All right. So we covered a lot, family. I know that I was very animated because I was upset, which I am still upset about how our brothers and sisters who are holding on to Christianity, who refuse to have the real discussions, right? Who's fighting for an Israel that's not biblical, right? Who constantly make videos about us, but will not talk about any of the things that I played inside this video. Now, I've been teaching this for years. You guys know I've been teaching this for years on top of years. Travel up and down this country, the East Coast, giving this teaching, right? And no one has ever called out any of my teaching. None of the stuff that we highlighted, right? Got Sister Carol here. How's it going, Sister Carol?
Hey, bro. How's it going?
Oh, you know me. I'm in my geek mode tonight.
That's 24/7.
I'm in my geek mode tonight.
You wake up in that mode. Just stop it.
I'm in my geek mode tonight.
That's every day, 24/7. Let's keep it real.
I'm in my geek mode tonight.
Mm-hmm. Tonight, tomorrow night, the next night. But yeah.
So what's up, sis? Anything you want to share tonight with the people?
Oh, I came in toward your end, so I didn't get to hear the full thing. But from what I'm hearing, one of your old, I call it one of the old PK teachings you pulled out, I see, on our good old people that wants to keep us as Jews, and we're not Jews. And we need to that word is so it's almost connected almost to an N-word to me at this point, because we're still dealing with trying to prove our identity. And we are Hebrews. We are not Jews. We are not those people. And they don't, and what's the funny thing about it, they don't proclaim to be us. They are proclaiming to be what they are, which is a religion. And the name comes from that religion that they created. And you just went over, and those words just went over. And we need to stop saying that. I've seen it all over the place. Black Jew, even the Black Israelite part gets on my nerves. I don't like that either. Why we have to put the word black in front of any of that? Say what we are. We're Hebrew Israelites. We are Israel. We need to put that in our vocabulary and drop all the other bywords that we've been using for years and start to embrace it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the things that we have to stop doing as a people is chasing behind people trying to validate ourselves, hoping that they validate us. We don't need to go to chase behind anyone and try to validate ourselves to them. We don't need their validation. No. You don't need anyone else's validation. You know who you are.
No.
You don't need to be supporting all these different platforms and trying to jump on different people platforms who made it a point that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, they already made up their mind that they're going to have something negative to say about you. They're going to always put a but at the end. You know me, sis. I don't, I'm very sensitive with the buts. It's like,
I know.
Hey, we know that you're the people of the book, but we know that, Christ came for Israel, but we know that the Israelites were black, but I'm tired of the buts, no.
That goes back to something I saw earlier in passing, and it's so true. We're still suffering from post-traumatic slavery. It's embedded in our DNA, and we really feel we need to have that validation to be something or someone. And no matter what is told to you from your own community, you reject it, because who you want to feel validated from is the people who constantly reject you, which is an oxymoron in the whole entire thing. You reject your own people who wants to tell you the truth, but you want to be validated by the people who reject you from Jump Street. And we have to.
No, go ahead. Finish. I thought you was finished. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was done.
It's funny that you said about the problem that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
The issue of slavery, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
caused a problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? We use the term show receipts.
Yeah.
Right? We always got to show receipts. We want to show receipts. We want to show receipts. Oh, let me pull the receipts up on this. Let me show the receipts on this person. Let me show the receipts. When you show receipts, that is validation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you understand the Barbados slave codes, because right, that's all the slave codes pretty much Barbados serve as the model, right?
Right.
So when you look at Barbados now, when we start getting into the slave catchers, right, the slaves had to do what? They had to have a ticket or a piece of paper to prove that they were authorized to move around on the plantation.
That's right.
Or if they were seen moving around on the plantation without a what? Receipt, a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Anyone can call their receipt. Any white person can pull them aside and say, show me your what? Ticket. Show me your what? Seat. Show me your what? Permission slip.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Sound familiar, right? In school, we
Oh,
had
yeah.
to what? We got indoctrinated by what? The permission slip.
That's
house,
right.
the hall pass.
The hall
Right?
pass.
So show me the receipt. And so we got that so deeply ingrained in our minds that we think it's something new, always trying to what? Show receipts.
Yes.
Say the term show receipts. Oh, let me show you the receipts on this. No, you know what? I don't have to show you no receipts.
That's right.
I don't have to show you anything. I rebuke that slave mindset of thinking that we're going to have to always use these receipts and chase behind those that are constantly putting us down to say, here's my receipt. Here's my proof to show that I am the people of the book. Kind of like, what's that? Despicable Me. Hey, Mom, I made a rocket out of macaroni noodles. And you know what I mean? Look, here's my DNA showing me that I'm Israel. And look, here's my heritage saying that I'm an Israelite. I've been taught that all through my life. And let me show you that there's Hebrew on the pews down in Savannah. And forget all of it.
Right. Exactly.
What's this, Dr. Newell? I see you on here.
Hey, good evening, Pastor Kelly and my brother and my beloved sister Carol.
Hey,
it's good to be on with you guys. Hey, I let me tell you, it's so amazing the teaching tonight, because I've had some conversations today that this teaching just solidifies everything and it validates everything. It's something how you broke down Kushi, what it really means, because I remember having a young man tell me that we are not from Shem, we are from Ham, from the land of Cush. And then he started using, just terms as you were teaching tonight. And it's so amazing to me how our people, they'll read and take something face value. They won't study. They just read to say that they read the text. But it's so important and so vital that we, like you said, know the etymology of a word and understand what that word is really meaning. And just to see the video tonight and hear them saying Kushi, because a black man or a man that is of color married a Jewish woman, a white woman. And so they're calling him a nigger. And here, our people don't quite understand the language. They're looking from the standpoint, I guess I want to say, a Western mindset, trying to read and understand an Eastern book. It was written with an Eastern mindset. And so with that being said, these teachings are needed. There were a lot of people, I was watching the comments. Some of them were going too fast for me, but there were a lot of people enlightened tonight. There were a lot of people, and I suggest that they go back and re-watch the video, because there was so much information that was given tonight that they would rewatch the video, because I'm sure there's something that they will hear that they didn't hear tonight, or they will get out of it that they may not have been able to get out tonight or write down, because to be informed is to be empowered. And when
Yes.
you really don't know or have an understanding, someone can come in that sound really good and tell you something and have you all crossed up and mixed up and messed up. And this is all truth. This is truth. And the scripture says that the entrance of your word, it brings forth light. And Most High brought forth so much light through you tonight for his people. I was so blessed tonight. I'm listening to the teaching, and I love Freeman. His name is Freeman, right? I listened to some
Yeah.
of his
Benjamin
things.
Freeman. Yeah.
Benjamin, right? And it just amazes me. It amazes me the truth that came out that our people so readily reject. Isn't that something?
Still today.
So readily reject. Exactly. It is truth that cannot be denied. However, they still reject it. They still deny it. They much rather.
Go ahead.
They much rather be caught up. When you begin to talk to people and they say, "Well, are you a Christian?" No, I'm Hebrew. I'm not religious. I'm a spiritual woman. I'm a biblical woman. I'm a Hebrew by culture. Hebrew is not a religion. Immediately, it's our people who declares that we're a cult. It's our people who declares that we are a hate group, or there's something wrong with us. And it's amazing, because if you talk to the right Jewish person, they will tell you who you are. And will tell you you're the only. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to let you finish.
And they will tell you that Black people don't know who they are. Isn't that something?
Well, I was going to add to what you were saying is this, when you brought up the Christian part, as if that's an identity. If we hold on to that book and believe in that book and what it says in that book, why would you not want to be known who you are in that book? You are not known as Christians in the book.
No.
If
Not
you
a
had
single
found
person.
out that you are a Hebrew Israelite identified in the book, wouldn't that enlighten you to want to find out more about it, as opposed to being a Christian? I would think that would be like the biggest gift of knowledge that's been poured into your soul, to say, hey, this is my lineage. This is my people. This book is about me. I'm not no Christian. I'm not none of that. Where did that come from? I am this. You would think that would be like the biggest gift given to you outside of anything, outside of being born.
Absolutely.
It's finally find your connection. Your true connection, your true identity above all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have a guest here as well. Tawame, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Forgive me if I didn't. My apologies. Anything you wanted to share tonight?
Shalom, Pastor, sisters. Blessings to
Shalom.
you. Thank you, first of all, Pastor Kelly, for your work and your dedication. And yes, you did pronounce my name correctly. It's not that often that happens. But yeah, I guess while I was up, and I don't like to be quiet too much. I thought I'd chime in. I think for me, it has become important coming out of the church. You've been pastoring for some 14 years, you said. So I was preaching for right over 10 years in the church. And so a part of my heart is still out for my brothers who are still blinded by the deception. And for me, it's hard for me not to plead with my brothers and sisters in the community to stay in prayer for our brothers who are out and our sisters who are out there and who are blinded, because I truly believe that it is a spiritual blinding on them. For those of us who've been studying any time in this community, we see and we know and we understand how much work has been put in to keep us blinded from who we are, from our worth, to even to this nation.
Hey, brother, repeat what you just said again, because I don't think people really understand. I think it may have gone over some of the people ahead. Say that part again about the investment into the delusion for us keeping us lost and blinded. Can you repeat what you just pointed out again?
Yes, sir. It's important that we understand how much time, how much effort, how much resources, how much delusion has been put into keeping us blinded, keeping us masked from who we are. And any research you do, or I have done in history, has always excluded us from being anybody. You read Christian dictionaries, they tell you that you're Hamites because you're dark, but when you read the dictionary, it tells you Ham, the progenitor of the dark races, but not the Negroes. I got a lot of brothers that I met in the military that came from Africa, joined the military, and they don't necessarily see us as true Africans, and we see America don't see us as we're taught that we are nobody. We're not added in the history books as a part of anybody, you know. So people who have put their life and their livelihood planted in the idea that we are who they tell us we are, it's hard for them to break away from that deception. They depend on it to live. Some of these pastors out here, they don't eat if they don't have their followings in their church. They don't have their valor. They don't have their name. They don't have their stature without Christianity. And I think it's hard for them to break away from that and say, now I'm this, which is rooted on nothing compared to what the world wants us to believe.
Well, even to your point, and great comments that you shared. But think about some of the triggers that Christianity has planted in our minds. You're not my brother or sister if you're not doing the will of Christ. But yet they still call themselves brothers and sisters, whether they believe in the Messiah or not. They still referring to the Jewish community as we know it, right? Remember, I think all of us been part of that. Hey, you know what? The Jewish community, they believe what we believe, but they just don't believe in Christ.
Yeah.
You done heard that a number of times. I grew up in the Baptist church, and that's one of the things you heard, and it was okay. But let one of us say we don't believe in Christ. That's like, you shutting everything down. You getting family beaten, people coming up, pulling up on you from the mailman, everybody coming to lay hands on you and everything. But think about what just that thought. Who is my mother? Who is my brother? Even that text being taught out of context, right? But we've been taught and been pre-programmed that if any of our brothers and sisters, right, go against the gospel, or really the church, they're going against the Most High. So it's a number of triggers that have been put in place to keep us perpetuating this delusion. That's why when someone leaves the church, what does the pastor tend to do with that person? Ostracize.
Yeah.
Going out the door and make the rest of the people that are still there scared to leave. Doesn't that sound like slavery? Doesn't that sound like plantation mindset mentality?
Exactly. Yep.
Demonize the one going out the door to make sure those that are still there don't think about leaving, because they don't want to experience the same ridicule, because they don't want to feel disconnected.
But Pastor, I don't mean to talk too much, but you so on it. It's funny that you say it like that, because The Most High forced me out of the church. It happened so organically. I was trying to stay connected. We was having our minister meetings, and me and one of my brothers, we were always, it seemed like we were getting in the arguments whenever we would say, well, how do we deal with this, or how do we deal with this in the scripture? How do we preach righteousness, but at the same time teach people that grace was a ticket for sin? Make it make sense. But we got into it big because for years, the Most High had showed me for years that he wasn't going. Everybody tried to move me to pastor, and that wasn't what he was calling me to do. I wasn't celebrating the holidays. And you know how they are about their holidays. They were putting trees. They putting the tree up in the sanctuary, and I wouldn't participate in putting it up, or I'd take it down in a hurry though. And what my brother and the pastor, they had a conversation about a disconnect first. Me and that pastor, that Saturday, that Shabbat, we had a 4-hour conversation. Sunday, he was in the pulpit talking about, if you don't believe in Christmas and in the founding fathers of the church, you can believe what you believe, but you can't believe it here. And it sat against my spirit so bad. Pastor, I called him I walked out. I couldn't even stay in the sanctuary. I called him at the church, told him we need to talk. Told him me and my family wasn't coming back.
Trust me, it's a hurtful thing because they use the podium to try to bully you.
Mm-hmm.
They use the podium to try to rebuke you. You know what I mean? To call you out, something, but scared to have a one-on-one dialogue, but want to make it public, and especially you served, because you say you was a minister. So I know you served 10 years. That's a minister. That's a true minister, because guess what? I was in Kojic for almost 10 years as a minister before I went into eldership. Serving faithfully, going through the ranks of teaching Sunday school, to being the superintendent of Sunday school, to being an armor bearer, to, you name it, I've done it. Building up the youth, going out and building up the evangelistic team, did all of that, worked every aspect of that ministry. You know what I mean? Know what ministry building is, and then to get thrown under the bus when you start asking questions about doctrine. Why are we doing this the way that we do it? Why is it that it feel like being in Kojic that I have to be a made man, so to speak. I have to be part of a select family in order to advance into certain areas. Even though I don't want to brag about my family connection in Kojic, all the way up to the superintendent, but I don't want to deal with that because I don't want to feel like I'm trying to navigate based upon what somebody else's credentials. I don't want to throw that around. So when you have integrity, you can easily get caught up in a lot of the craziness in terms of being on the receiving end of being embarrassed because of the integrity that you operate in. And that's exactly what I went through. I mean, literally, I had my eldership papers, thrown in my face, said, hey, if you just stay here longer, if you just don't say anything else, if you don't question anything else, if next time you teach, from now on, when you teach, don't teach about marriage, don't teach about gender and sexuality, because I'm telling you, what you hear me teaching right now, I was teaching this when I was in Kojic, but they were trying everything that they could to silence me.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, Dr. Newell.
I was a staunch, self-righteous apostolic. Do you hear me? And just like you said, you went through the ranks. I went through the ranks. I was a Sunday school teacher, became a Sunday school superintendent, just promoted from level to level. And I remember talking to the chief bishop or the chief elder or the apostle. Well, he's an apostle now. And I said to him what I knew about our Hebrew heritage, and he said to me he knew that, but he can't teach it to the people because it would confuse them. And I'm thinking to myself, they're already confused.
Yes.
They're already confused. What do you mean it will confuse them? I went through such ridicule and they ostracized me. It was so horrific until the city saw what was going on. I had a young lady call me and she said to me, she said, Apostle Noel, God told me, this is what she said, God told me to have you come and preach for our women's conference because you have something to tell the people. I said, oh, okay, I'll come. Then she said, wait a minute, what name are you preaching in? At the time, I was calling him Yeshua. She said, oh, you using that name? Never mind. I said, wait a minute. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, you said that God told you that I had something to say to the people. I mean, it was so much for years. I'm talking about not just because I started preaching in 1983 as a missionary. And then, I went on and here it is in 2022. But what I'm saying is these people knew that I had the Holy Spirit. These people encountered the move of Yah on my life.
Wait a
But
minute,
when
wait a
it
minute.
came
You was teaching, you was evangelizing during the time of New Edition, during the time of Full Force, during the time of pop locking.
Yes, indeed I
During
was.
the time
But
of
let me
1983, that Sugar Hill Gang territory. What?
She was
Yeah,
showing us sanctified, didn't it?
Listen,
yeah,
I came out. Let
that's
me tell you something. I came out of school. I started well, let me say this. It was actually 1984. And I remember
don't try
leaving.
to
Going
play it off. It's 79. No, let me stop.
I left and I went to the military to get away from the bondage. I didn't leave and go to the military because I wanted to encounter the military. That was my way out because I was a part of a family church. My uncle was the leader. All of us were in ministry in one way, shape, form, or fashion, but the abuse was so just like you said, if a person left, that person was talked about. You were abused over the pulpit. Verbally, they used the pulpit to tear you down. And if you question anything, who do you think you are? I mean, it was horrific. So when I went to the military, it gave me time to be away from all of that because I often tell people, you need to leave your hometown and go somewhere, go abroad and travel and experience different cultures and experience other places because you will see that it's bigger than the place that you're being abused at. And I remember one day I was praying and I heard this, no kidding. I heard being in an abusive church is like being in an abusive marriage. Get out. When I was getting ready to leave, I went and I did the proper thing. At the time I was married, me and my husband went and I was told, if you stay long enough, I'm going to sanction you. I'm going to ordain you an elder. So you stay and I'm going to sanction your husband as an elder. We just stay long enough for me to do that. I was like, no, we can't. We were instructed, my husband at the time was like, we were instructed to leave now. And we had to leave for the life of our family. It was so horrific that, and they got it from slavery and don't even realize it. What they did was they saw how the chastisement put the slaves in check and they carried it on into the church, into Christianity. So they went from being slave masters to being slave pastors. And when you say that, how dare you say that about these pastors? How dare you say that about leaders? And how dare you say this? And when you show them in the word, they reject it. And you become an enemy because you're telling them the truth. And the sad thing about it is your heart goes out because you want everyone that you know and your family and people that are connected to you, you get so excited and you run to them and you tell them, hey, this is the truth about who we are. Hey, this is what the word say. And before you know it, you're excited about it. But when you leave so damaged and beat up because of the things that they said to you about the truth that you're sharing with them for their well-being, because they much rather believe a lie than the truth. And so
Well,
what
see,
I've learned,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
what
Go
I've
ahead.
learned is that there is a remnant. And if they're blinded, it's because the Most High blinded them. And so, I just simply pray that, Father, if you blinded them, then I take my hands off of it. But if this is just a temporary thing, remove the scales off of their eyes so that they can see the truth.
Yeah, and for me, the struggle for me was I grew up knowing that I was Israel. My grandmother, they made sure we knew it was Israel, but I still grew up in the church. You know what I mean? And I grew up with hearing all the things of, hey, that doesn't matter. It's all about the blood, all those different things. I heard all those things. So, but I will say, I thank the Most High, though, for giving me the integrity through a praying grandmother, showing me what integrity is. And by me seeing how she functioned, and also a young deacon, a young minister by the name of James Bailey III. I call him father to this day. I call him pops to this day because he treated me to this day as his son. If I go into town, the family going to have a dinner for me, everything. That is my pops, and I appreciate him. But I just had, when I was in Christianity, when I was, like I said, I went from Kojic to apostolic, and while I was there, the Most High just told me enough is enough. He said teach, but when I got out of the apostolic, I went. We started our ministry, and of course, non-denominational. You guys know non-denominational is still denominational. You know what I mean? So I just did all of that, but then finally, I never forget, man. I was, just at an ordination service, installing a bishop, and I just sat there. I was like, I took my collar off, and I just couldn't. My stomach hurt because it was like I'm sitting up there looking at our people pushing Roman Catholicism, seeing how our people are wearing the regalia of the same people that have enslaved us, the same people that raped the men, raped the women, that came up with all these edicts and all those different things. And I just said, you know what? It was just time for me to really transition our ministry from Christianity to this truth. So, but nevertheless, family, we'll have a special discussion on this. I'm going to go live again tomorrow night. And because I know it's getting kind of late here, I had to get my message together for tomorrow. But we're going to go right down the list. And I appreciate you, Tawami. I appreciate you for jumping on. And I thank you for sharing your insight tonight. So we're going to start with you. We're going to let you give final thoughts to the word, to the people. And then after you, we'll have Sister Carol, then Dr. Newell. And, let's give, whatever thoughts you want to share with the people. And also we have what is called the garbage can, right? So if there's anything that you want to throw inside this garbage can, let me show you the garbage can, right? You just call it out. We're going to throw it into the garbage can. You'll see this come on the screen. All right. So whatever it is, if there's anything you want to throw in that garbage can, call it out, and we're going to throw it in the garbage can. All right. But give your final thoughts, and, whatever you want to throw inside that garbage can.
Thank you, Pastor. And for me, it's just real simple. I beckon to the family, my brothers and sisters in the Most High, that we just continue to pray for our brothers and sisters who have not yet had the scales removed from their eyes, because it is, and just speaking out even as a minister or elder or ordained in the Christian church, it's depressing being blinded because you know that there's something else there. So I just pray that even though we're getting good teaching, and we're calling out the deception, we're calling out the lies, we're calling out the mishandling of the word of the Most High, but that we stay in prayer for our brothers and sisters. And if there's anything that I would like to throw in the garbage can, that would be what the way that the scripture says it in the English: those who call themselves Yahudians and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan, because they're showing their true colors. They're showing who they are by the way that they're even treating the true children of the Most High. So if there's anything we throw in the garbage can, let's throw that racism and that hate that is going on in the new state of Judaism. I learned that from you today, Pastor. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. So we're going to throw them in the garbage can, the imposters, right? We're gonna throw them all in the garbage can. Let's bring the garbage can out. Appreciate you, my brother. Sister Carol.
The word Jew. It's time to get that word out of our vocabulary. It's time to get out all bywords out of our vocabulary. It's time to start embracing our true identity and culture of who we are. If you say you Hebrew, then say you Hebrew. Don't go back to this African American thing that they gave us. And don't go back to the crayon box of black, because we are not from the people of Crayola. I was not born in that country, wherever that country is of crayons. We are who we are, and we need to start acting like that. So I want to get rid of the word Jew. You can throw that in the trash can.
All right, let's throw it in the trash. Here we go. All right.
I am tickled with that trash can.
And we're going, and for Sister Carol, we got to give her the happy feet too.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Go ahead, Dr. Noel. You got any final thoughts, and anyone you want to recommend to, or any system, whatever it may be, to throw in the garbage can. So you have the floor.
Absolutely. What I would really, in short, would suggest to our brothers and sisters that they continue to seek truth, that they don't just take people's word for it, but that they research it for themselves and get that truth down in their inward parts, like the words speak about it, that they would stop allowing people to overshadow them or make them feel less because they say that they are Hebrew. We don't have to explain that we're not the ones on the corners cussing. We just need to live that life according to the word and be the standard. And so that's what I would say. Study, study, study. You can never know too much. And don't just take what people are saying, but research it yourself. I love what you did tonight, Pastor Kelly, when you showed those two books. If you could please text me the name of them, because I'm going to try to get them from Amazon tomorrow. But just study. And who I would like, and it's people that I would like to put in that trash can, are those pastors who know the truth but refuse to teach their people who they are. I want them to go in the trash can. You hear me?
All right, let's throw them in the trash can. Matter of fact, let's give them a 3-piece and a couple of sides with their 3-piece. All right, now here's a couple of sides. They want their order to go. All right. So, but really appreciate you guys and jumping on at the end of this discussion. We got another discussion that we're going to have tomorrow night. We're going to deal with a topic. I hope you guys had a chance to watch the video I uploaded of the rabbi teaching that Adam was intimate with animals, trying to, in his attempt to search for Eve.
That part.
So we're going to deal with that tomorrow night. And we're going to deal with some other poor teachings of the book of Genesis. And I've taught this for years, that you cannot teach Revelation without knowing the book of Genesis. So many can't even break down the very first verse of Genesis, but yet it's trying to teach beyond that. If you don't have the first verse correct, everything from that point on is going to be off. So we're going to deal with that tomorrow night. And you guys more than welcome to be part of the panel tomorrow night. And in the words that I want to share with you guys, in the words of the Most High, as he gave Moses the word of encouragement to the children of Israel in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14, right? When Israel was at what seemed to be a dead end, between a rock and a hard place, because they had the Egyptians that represents their past, right, coming up, to basically attack them and bring them back into bondage, right? So the Most High told Moses to share these words with them. He said, "Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of Yahweh." These Egyptians that you see here today, these Egyptians, these strongholds, this captivity, these devices, whatever it may be, will not have power over you ever again. It will never have power over you. Will not have the strength. Will not have the manipulation. Will not have none of those things over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker: you have to hold your peace. And in that verse, you'll see the Hebrew word karash, which means be quiet. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Keep moving forward. I'll say it one more time. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Somebody better